Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. As we always do, it's always really important to us for us to connect with you. So these Mentor Mondays are always designed to help you grow in coaching proficiency, as well as to grow a thriving coaching practice. We want to be both proficient coaches, thriving practices. If you would jump inside of the chat widget. This is not about just me being a talking head, but we want to interact with you. So please jump into the chat right now. Let us know that you are here. Tell us where you're joining us from, what you're excited about, what you feel momentum on in your life. Let me say hello to a few people in here. Charlotte, who's joining us from Illinois. Yes, and happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. I know that was yesterday, but I hope you guys all had a great one. We tried the best that we could. My wife was under the weather. First, my youngest daughter got sick, and then she managed to get a couple of other people sick along the way while she was recovering, and got my wife sick. And so my oldest had come in town. For some of you who are wondering, yes, I'm much older than I look. I'm about to hit 50. So our oldest is almost 27 years old. So she came in town, and yeah, you know what that's meant is that we've all done a bunch of couch surfing because mom hasn't felt really good. So it was ordering out and watching movies and those kinds of things for us. But I hope all of you had a great one. I don't know who to say hello to right here. I just see hi from NorCal. Shannon saying hello to us from Tampa, Florida. MJ Griffin from Texas. Sandy is joining us from New Jersey. Shannon is joining us from Tampa, Florida. Diane's joining us from South Carolina. Americo from Richmond, Virginia, but originally from New York City. Very good to see you. Anybody else, if you would, just jump inside. You haven't missed anything yet. Let us know that you're here. It's an exciting brand new series that we are starting in this on this particular week. Let me say hello to a few more people. Maureen, who's joining us from Columbus, Ohio. Diana, who's joining us from LA. Keep it coming, though. Keep popping into the chat. We haven't jumped in yet. Oh, but let me just pan out for a second. Yes, this is a new studio setup for those of you who haven't seen. You wouldn't have seen it yet because we haven't done anything with Mentor Monday. But these are some things that are in the works for a couple of our new programs that we're doing. Matter of fact, this weekend's advanced skills training, so we'll probably be using this backdrop for that. Also, our new Masters Academy is starting next week. So we've been doing a lot of little bonus kinds of things and changing some things in preparation for that. But you'll still see the old set from time to time as well. So keep those comments coming. Let me just jump in here and scroll down a little bit. Charlotte had a great Mother's Day. That's so good to see. Awesome. Well, again, keep those comments rolling in. And what we're focused on over this week and the next couple of weeks is going to be the Life Coach's Guide to Procrastination. And it's really fun how this actually came together for us here recently. We have a Wednesday night group coaching call for our coaches who are part of the Jumpstart program. And so actually what I was doing this past week was demonstrating how you can do group coaching. And so I grabbed this topic and we put some of those things together as a simulation and everything else. But the interesting thing is that I was like, you know what? There's a lot of coaches themselves that struggle with procrastination. And there's a lot of people who struggle with procrastination. Why don't we just go for that for the next few weeks in our Mentor Monday? Let me say hello to a couple more people before we fully jump in. If I've missed anything, keep those comments rolling in. But let me say hello to a couple more people. Bill, who's joining us from Texas. It's good to see you, Bill. Now, offset, I have something going on with my monitor over here. So give me 1 second, and I'm just going to hop off for a second to make sure that I can see what you guys can see over here, because for whatever reason, I can't see it. But maybe it'll come back for me, and then I'll be able to know what you guys are seeing at any given time. So why procrastination? Well, here's a reason. Pretty much everybody that you will coach in the future has been putting off the dreams, the desires that they've had in their heart for a really long time. Now, there's a lot of different factors that go into that. One of the things that I could say is that change is really hard. So people have belief systems, they have habits, they have all kinds of different things that are functioning in them that are keeping them where they are and have actually slowed the trajectory in their life or lowered the trajectory in their life. But what you're going to find as you begin coaching people is that you're going to find that some of those bad habits still exist. Some of the things that even though they're saying yes, I want to do this, and they're paying you and all of this other stuff, you're going to find that most everybody that you coach has a procrastination problem. How do we know that? Because they've already had things that they've wanted to do in their life. Maybe they started and they stopped, and they started and they stopped, or they got a little bit afraid, or they got into it a little bit, or whatever, something popped up, something that got hard or whatever. And so procrastination starts rearing its head at certain points that actually that cause a lot of self-sabotage. So what we're going to try to do in this particular series, because here's the other thing that I know as well, coaches are procrastinators as well, if we're honest about it. And so what I'm hoping during this time is it will help you, but it's also going to be helping your clients as well, because you're going to know how to help your clients when it comes to procrastination. Now, here's something that I'm going to say on the front end, because I know that there's a lot of you who are on social media and you see various things that are out there. And there is one common, maybe two common trend these days where people are calling literally everything that happens in the world trauma. Not everything that has happened to you in your life that was difficult or hard or whatever was traumatic. With all due respect, there are some people who have gone through some major trauma in their life. And sometimes when we try to act like little things or whatever is trauma or a trauma response, it's kind of disrespectful to those people who have truly experienced some major things. Now, one of the things that I can say is that when it comes to trauma, the way that you process it, determines whether or not you think that something is trauma or whatever. I respect all of those things. Just know this. I'm not going to talk about trauma-induced procrastination. It's not my lane. It's not your lane as a coach. And I do not want to be blaming bad habits in our the lower trajectory in our life all the time on trauma. Because here's what happens is that if we keep looking back and it's fine if you've got trauma, then go get healed. But if you're trying to move forward in your life and you keep looking back, then your future ends up looking a lot like your past. And so there is a point for all of us when our healing journey can't be 30 years in the making. That ends up enabling people to just be in victim stages and in pain stages for a really, really long time. And so, and I say that with a lot of respect because I've had my own. You guys have all had your own. My wife and I had been on a major healing journey in her life because she experienced about every kind of trauma that you could imagine. If you saw her today and listened to her, you know that she's worked hard and went after all those things. So we have a lot of grace and I have a lot of compassion, and I really, really understand it. That's why I say that it's really, really you got to be really, really careful calling everything trauma or saying that all of our responses are trauma-related responses. Maybe your procrastination has to do with trauma, but in most cases, it really doesn't. It's just, well, it's how we relate to difficult things, sometimes things that we don't want to do, sometimes things that are hard, and sometimes things that we just have a little bit of fear or something like that that's operating in our life. So again, with all due respect, we're going to table that part of things so that we can talk about what is the most common procrastination that is probably plaguing most of us who are today, because honestly, everybody who's here tonight is a procrastinator. Even I have been a procrastinator over things, and I've had to learn to reframe and do some other things so that I don't have failure in certain areas where I know that I have a propensity to procrastination. So let's jump in. So tonight, what we're going to talk about are the 6 types of procrastinators, because here's the reality is that not all procrastination is equal and not everybody procrastinates for the same reason. So what we're going to do to understand this is that we're going to take a fun little quiz, but you're going to have to pay attention because I can't just keep going back and forth. I can't go back. If you didn't pay attention during the slide, I can't go back a slide or two or whatever. We're going to ask 6 questions, right? 6 questions, multiple choice. I want you to go with the answer that is most like you. And I say most like you, 51% or higher, not 90% of the time, but 51% or higher. I know that sometimes when you have multiple choice, you can say, well, that could be me and that could be me, but I want you to pick the one that is 51% of the time and higher, and keep up with your answers. If it helps you, throw it into the chat or something, or write it down or whatever, because it's going to be really simple. It's ABC answers. You're going to keep up with your number of A's, uh, B's, and C's, and you're going to see how you make it at the end. Okay. Really simple though. Simple questions. Again, go with what is most true of you, 51% or higher the time, and write down wherever you're at. Maybe you can throw it in your phone, just scribble it, whatever. A, B, or C is going to be the answer. And again, pay a lot of attention because I can't go back. Go with your gut response. Don't overthink this, okay? All right. And this is researched and it's science backed, what I'm getting ready to show you. It's not something that Paul just came up with a bunch of names and put this stuff together, okay? All right, here we go. First question. For what kind of a procrastinator are you? Here's the first question. When faced with an important or difficult task, what is your initial reaction? So if you're experiencing something that is important or it's difficult, how do you respond? A, I feel anxious and doubtful about my ability to succeed. B, I worry that if I don't do it perfectly, I'll be considered a failure. Or C, I take on too many tasks, failing to prioritize effectively. Again, I'll say that question again. When faced with an important or difficult task, what is your initial reaction? A, I feel anxious and doubtful about my ability to succeed. B, I worry that if I don't do it perfectly, I'll be considered a failure. Or C, I take on too many tasks, failing to prioritize effectively. A, B, or C? All right, let's go to the next question. What emotions do you experience when confronted with mundane or repetitive tasks? Is it A, boredom, B, frustration or anger, or C, a need for last minute pressure to motivate action? A, boredom. What emotions do you experience when confronted with the mundane or repetitive task? A, boredom. B, frustration or anger. C, a need for last minute pressure to motivate action. See, even when we read this one, just giving you some hints on some things, even when we read this one, you start finding out what kinds of triggers that people have that initiate procrastination. So this is a really important one because not all of you have A, and not all of you have B, and not all of you have C. But I'll tell you a secret about me. C is a really, really big one for me, that have always waited to the last minute, because, and I've even told people I'm better under pressure. Some of you have actually said that. But do you know that sometimes when people are confronted with mundane or repetitive tasks, they just find it increasingly boring? When we did this little quiz just for fun with my family while we were just sitting around while my wife wasn't feeling good or whatever. It was so funny because I already knew what everybody's answer was going to be. Ultimately, I knew what kind of a procrastinator. And it was really funny listening to our 11-year-old talk about what keeps her from doing things most of the time. And it's A almost every time. So let's keep going. Next question. How do you approach your dreams or goals? A, I have grand ideas but struggle to put in the necessary work. B, I believe good things should come easy without much effort. Or C, I resist doing tasks I don't find worthwhile or important. Read that again. How do you approach your dreams or goals? A, I have grand ideas but struggle to put in the necessary work. B, I believe things should come easy without much effort. And C, I resist doing tasks I don't find worthwhile or important. Next question. When given a task you disagree with, and when we say that, what we're really talking about, you get a task maybe from a boss or a superior or someone who has authority over you. Okay. So, in that context, or wait, it may actually be your spouse. Like in my case, if my wife tells me to do something, or if your mom tells you to do something, or, whoever's got, which sounds really funny, whoever's got authority, whoever is your boss. All right. A, I feel resentful and delayed doing it. B, I believe I shouldn't have to do it and feel rebellious. Or C, I procrastinate because I don't find it valuable. Again, when given a task you disagree with, what is your immediate response? A, I feel resentful and delayed doing it. B, I believe I shouldn't have to do it and feel rebellious. C, I procrastinate because I don't find it valuable. Big question. What is your perception of failure? How do you see failure? A, I fear failure and doubt my ability to succeed. B, failure to me means I'm not doing the task perfectly. C, I fear not meeting my own or others' standards. Let's read it again. What is your perception of failure? I fear failure and doubt my ability to succeed. B, failure to me means not doing the task perfectly. Or C, I fear not meeting my own or others' standards. How do you typically handle deadlines? A, I wait until the last minute because I need the pressure to perform. See, you guys already gave myself away. You're probably going to say, oh, that sounds like Paul right there. But how many of you like that last minute needing the pressure to perform? B, I struggle to start because I doubt my ability to succeed. Or C, I delay because I find the task boring or frustrating. Again, how do you typically handle deadlines? Do you wait to the last minute because you need pressure to perform? That is A. B, I struggle to start because I doubt my ability to succeed. Or C, I delay because I find the task boring or frustrating. Now, here's the results. If you look at your list and you got mostly A's, you might be a worrier or a crisis maker. If you got mostly B's, you might be a perfectionist, dreamer, or defier. And if you got mostly C's, you might be an overdoer or a defier. So look at your little list there that you've come up with. Mostly A's, you might be a worrier or a crisis maker. Remember these names because we're going to define them for you. B, you might be a perfectionist, dreamer, or defier if you were mostly B's. And if you were mostly C's, you might be an overdoer or a defier. Now, what we did is that we narrowed it down for you because there's 6 different types. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the definitions of worrier, crisis maker, perfectionist, dreamer, and defiers and overdoers. What I'm going to do is that now that you kind of know, you kind of got a handle on it, we're going to define it really clearly. And again, this is research and science backed. You can find this information that's out there. What we're going to do is that we're going to look at them a little bit more so that you understand where you fit in. And you can also, as you are working with your clients, let's say that they have procrastination, you can actually do something like this. If you can't already, you're not already kind of an expert and you can kind of intuitively see where people fall on some of this stuff, some of these questions can help clarify what is the source and the trigger of procrastination with them. So let's get to the definitions though really quickly. For you worriers, if you got that as a possibility for you a little while ago, what is a worrier? Well, a worrier doesn't start that important or difficult task because they don't believe they'll be able to do it. They fear they won't succeed. They feel anxiety at the thought of failure. Thus, it is better to not start the task, as you can't feel the negative emotions associated with failure if you don't make an attempt in the first place. The typical procrastinating belief associated with the worrier is I won't be able to because blank. I wonder how many of you guys are worriers that kind of sounds like you. If you want, go ahead and throw that in the chat. Let us know. Are there any worriers in here? And now that you know, and when you know your type, what we're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks is that we're going to show you how to coach people specifically who are worriers. But we got a few more types. Maybe you're a perfectionist. It's similar to being a worrier, except the perfectionist doesn't start the task in the sense that, like a worrier, the perfectionist doesn't start the task because of a fear of failure. But for the perfectionist, failure looks a little bit different. Failure equates to not doing the task perfectly. And the typical perfectionist belief might sound something like, if I don't do the task extremely well, I'm a failure. Now, one thing that I will tell you, lots and lots and lots of coaches live here. And so it really prevents a lot of coaches from ever getting started because they don't feel like anything is perfect enough and that they are not perfect enough and competent enough. So you'll see a lot of worriers that are coaches, but then you'll also see a lot of perfectionists who are coaches, and it actually shuts them down. And so what they'll do is they'll work really, really well for a while, and then they'll get shut down and they'll get dismayed and they'll get disheartened and they'll think that I can't be good enough, I can't make this good enough or whatever. And so it'll ultimately completely shut them down and sabotage them. Here's the next one. Overdoers. These are people who commit to doing too many tasks. Then they fail to prioritize the important task and thereby fail to get them done on time. The classic overdoer belief around procrastination is, if I don't accomplish all of this, then I'm not good enough. The fear of not living up to their own impossible standards or imagined impossible standards of others causes them to take on too much and to not get critical tasks done. I see this with a lot of coaches as well, because many coaches who are moms specifically fit into this. And it doesn't just have to be a mom. I met an individual this weekend, and this guy is doing way too much and doesn't know. And I wouldn't say that they're necessarily getting their value out of it, but they so don't want to disappoint. And so prioritizing in some of those things, especially with what's most important, is really, really hard. They have a hard time letting things go, and being okay with it, and disappointing people and all this other stuff. So what ends up happening is that they end up not being as great as they could be because they're getting spread so thin in so many different things. And obviously, they're always putting themselves last along the way. Crisis makers. The crisis maker believes that in order to be motivated to do a task, they need the stress or pressure that is inherent in last minute action. Without this, they believe they won't perform at their best. They need pressure to alleviate the boredom. I'm a crisis maker. And you'll see this with a few of these, that there's a real not just the pressure to the last minute pressure being beneficial, but this boredom thing. Some of you, the reason why you procrastinate so much is that you find the small details and tasks along the way extraordinarily boring. And so it's almost really at the point of failure that it finally switches something on. It's kind of like when you have a child that their room's a disaster and they're not touching it, they're not listening, threats aren't really happening or whatever, unless it is a threat of some sort that could be really painful and costly to them. So let's say that your kid might have been threatened with a lot of different things. It didn't matter, and then they didn't get motivated, but then they suddenly have something that they want to do. They want to have a friend over or something like that. But let's say that the mom or dad says, well, you can't have any friends over because your room's a disaster. And their friend's supposed to come over the next day. And so what do? In like 15 minutes, they get the whole room spotless. It's amazing how they had no motivation for this. And then the moment that there's a threat of failure, then all of a sudden they're able to pull off and accomplish in a short amount of time what they weren't able to do before. That's what crisis makers do. And I relate to that one a lot. I do. Let me tell you a hint. Some of you who are crisis makers and you can't get your coaching practice started, the best thing that you could do is to say that your business is starting on a certain day, and then you'll get it done. We have a jumpstart program that we started in 2016. I held on to getting that thing done, knew what I needed to do for almost an entire year, and I didn't get it done. And then I did like a little pre-order to see who was interested and stuff like that. But the reality was I wasn't getting anything done. And it was not until March of 2016 that I sent out an email to everybody who was on my on the email list at that time. And they said, guess what? In April, 1st of April, we're starting this new program. It's called Jumpstart Your Coaching Practice. And we're going to give you the A to Z on how to develop your business. April 1st. And then I started all this marketing and promotion on the front end and gave myself a deadline. You know how much of that program I had done? Zero. Hadn't written a single word. All of it was here, wasn't getting anything done. When I created that crisis for myself, you know what happened? It got done. And it was completely all together. We started with our first group of coaches, helping them start businesses. Within months, we were helping over 100 coaches at different levels getting their business started. It was amazing. So that's one of the things. If you are a crisis maker, you can find ways of leveraging who you are. Dreamers, though, and I can say that I can relate to dreamers as well. Dreamers don't think they should have to work hard to get what they want. They think it should all fall into their lap. And we've all met or even been the dreamer. Huge ideas, but very little getting done about them. The thought of daily tasks involved in fulfilling the dream either bores, overwhelms, or frustrates them. And so what happens is with dreamers, and I've met a lot of them, and some of you are dreamers. I am a dreamer, so I can say this is probably a secondary procrastination kind of thing. We love to talk big picture. We love the big, exciting details, change the world. That's why we get excited about conferences. We get excited about training. We get excited about new things and shiny things and everything else. And then all of a sudden, when it comes to the actual daily work of having to write some things or to put an email together or something, it just folds us up. We just get shut down. We're just like, oh, are you kidding? But I can dream all I want, but it's the mundane task along the way that ultimately undermines us and keeps us from doing anything. This is what happens with dreamers. Defiers, I want you to imagine the situation. Your boss is giving you a boring, mundane task or just a stupid task to do, and you think it's not worthwhile. You're angry, maybe resentful, so you delay. And you put off doing it to do other tasks you think are more important. And the typical belief underlying the defier's feelings of frustration and rebellious behavior is anger. And underlying this anger is the belief, I shouldn't have to do it. So next week, what we're going to do is we're going to talk in detail of how you coach these different procrastination types. I'm just really curious. Did you find out Donna says I'm a dreamer? Anybody else that wants to confess? Confession is good. You can talk about what kind of a procrastinator you are. I'd love to hear it. And what we're going to do as well is that we are going to talk about, we're going to pay the bills and talk about what's coming up. For some of you who have been interested in Master's Academy, it's our Christian Life Coach certification. This Friday is the end of the half off pre-order. So the regular price is going to be $395. You can get in for $195. Some of you have been getting emails about it. If you go to christianlifecoach.co, you can get enrolled and save that 50%. So it's only $195 through Friday. That program starts next Thursday, but the pre-order discount, because it's a brand new program, will be over after Friday. So if you're thinking about that program, I'm going to highly encourage you to do it. Advanced skills training for those of you who have already gotten trained and certified as coaches and you're looking to add that credential. I should add, for the Master's Academy, you do have to have a basic credential already from somewhere or from us. Same thing with this, because both of these are advanced credentials. What is included in this weekend's training? It's going to be Friday night and it's going to be all day Saturday. It's going to be a 10-hour live training streamed over Zoom to any device that you want to use. You're going to walk away with breakthrough tools, because what we say is what happens after the event is more important than what happened at the event. And you're going to earn the distinction of being a credentialed certified professional coach, which is going to increase your proficiency and marketability. This is not a repeat of anything that you've learned in the Life Coach certification course. These are all advanced skills for breakthrough. You're going to go through Friday night is all about brain science and how beliefs form and how you can change them. And all day Saturday, you're going to be learning the tools of breakthrough. And here's the best part, you're going to be utilizing them on yourself. So you will experience breakthrough and you'll know how to utilize the tools. And I'll be working with many of you throughout the weekend so that we can actually practice using the tools. But if you have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, here's what my encouragement would be. Join our Jumpstart program. It's $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. Not only do you get the A to Z business development roadmap, but you do get trained and certified as a coach. Here are the things that Jumpstart includes. Bootcamp weekend is May 24th through 26th. So not this weekend, but the following weekend. You can knock all of your training and certification out in a single weekend. It's 7 sessions with Q&As and role playing. You'll get trained, knock all your training out in a single weekend. You turn in your assignments and take the exam and you're done. Obviously, you'll get a certificate, you'll get a unique credential ID, and you'll get a free listing on lifecoachmatch.com. Also included in Jumpstart, Brand Camp for Coaches. It's 13 hours of training. We give you a step-by-step on how to SEO your website, how to develop a website, how to write a sales page, email tools, bonuses. We show you wireframe tools. We show you how to develop a niche, all of those other kinds of things. Again, it's a step-by-step course that you get access to. You'll also get the coaching product launch blueprint. And the blueprint works for everything from business launches to group coaching, online courses, webinars, workshops. A beautiful part of this particular program is that when you go through the course, we give you step-by-step tools to develop any kind of a product. We go from brainstorming all the way to launch. And if you've ever heard me talk, you know that I'm not into just one-on-one coaching. That will level out your business. I want to show you ways to create multiple streams of income that maximizes your revenue, but also maximizes your ability to help more people. All of this is $97 a month. So you get trained and certified. You get the Life Coach Certification course, which includes Tuesday night training. You get boot camp. You get all those courses, including the Jumpstart A to Z Business Development Roadmap. It's $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. You guys have been looking around at other programs, and you're like, what about, you're seeing programs that are just certification, and you're paying thousands of dollars. We're an accredited program. You will get trained and certified as a coach, and you will also have the steps, because the dirty secret in the industry is that your money's taken, you walk away with a certificate, and you have no idea and no money on how to get clients. And we're going to show you all of this completely. I've not heard a new question from a coach in 10 years of training coaches, because we've thought through those things, and we're also thinking ahead in everything that we develop. Our new training and everything else, we're showing you how to use ChatGPT, how to write emails and utilize different kinds of AI tools and everything else. We've stayed current and we're on it. So anything that you've probably heard about in the world, we cover it, and we've been really successful, not only at launching other coaches, but we've been successful ourselves at not only training coaches, but we've been successful in business as well, so that you can know that what you're learning actually works. Let me say hello to a few more people. Thank you so much. Miraco says this is a godsend. Miraco says, I just signed up for boot camp with Jumpstart. Very good. Awesome. Maureen says, I am an overdoer and a crisis maker. Well, and Sandy says, I'm an overdoer and crisis maker. Charlotte says, I am a perfectionist and a dreamer. Diane says, I am an overdoer and a perfectionist. Very good. Oh, let me say hello to Maria. Maria is joining us from Northern Virginia. Awesome. Well, cool. Well, here's the deal. This link right here to our programs, you're going to see information in there specifically about Bootcamp. Hey, if you are only wanting to get trained and certified as a coach, Bootcamp's probably your best bet. I didn't show it to you because the best deal for getting trained and certified and getting business development help is $97 a month. But if you want to just go for a boot camp, it's $247. You'd save about $50 doing that, but you won't get the business development help. And I highly recommend it. It's only $97 out of pocket to get enrolled for everything, including boot camp. and then you'll just have that debited on the same day. So it's perfect timing because what's today? Today's the 13th. Hey, 15th is payday, or Friday is payday. Friday's the deadline for these discounts and stuff like that I showed you. So I'd highly encourage you to get enrolled as soon as you possibly can. Listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. It's been a great week. This is going to be a great series, and I'm excited about unpacking it for you over the next few weeks. So listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Have a great rest of your week, and take care. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. As we begin, we always like to do, you see this right here? This is what we love to do. We love to interact with you. So if you would do me a huge favor, like this post and share it. That tells Facebook and YouTube that we're doing a good job. And let us know you're here. Tell us where you're joining us from and what you're excited about, what you feel life and momentum on. I'm going to double check a couple of things to make sure that we're not having any audio issues. It looks like we're okay. Let me know if you guys are hearing me okay. Let me say hello to a few people who are saying hello to me. Miles in San Diego, Vernice in Florida, MJ from, oh, how do you say that? Waxahachie, Texas. Did I pronounce that right? Americo from Richmond, Virginia. Gerlinda, who says, can't wait for tonight's session. Those still munching on advanced coaching from this weekend. Yes, we had advanced skills training this weekend. So Gerlinda was one of those that was knocking out her certified professional coach certification, advanced certification, which we're so proud of. Let me see who else I need to say hello to. Americo says, very pumped about this new chapter in life. Charlotte's joining us from Illinois. Good to see you. Again, if you're just making it in, you haven't missed anything yet, let us know that you are here. Do me a couple of favors. One, like this post and share it. It tells Facebook and YouTube we're doing a good job. And we try really hard. Not only do we want to help you in coaching skills, but we also want to help you have a thriving coaching practice. This particular series is very focused on the skill side and the nuanced kinds of things that we're going to be dealing with as coaches. And I'm talking specifically about procrastination. But before we jump in, let me say hello to a couple more people. No one says it correctly at your job. All right. Well, I guess I got it right. That's awesome. Keep those comments coming in. And again, let us know that you are here. Tell us where you are joining us from. I'm all the way over here in California in the studio. So I don't have the pleasure of seeing your face or hearing your beautiful voice. So do me a huge favor. Jump into the chat. Let us know you're here. Also, again, like and share this, especially if you're finding Mentor Mondays are really beneficial for you. That's what we're always trying to do, is support and help you be a better coach and also to thrive in your coaching practice. There's Diane. Group coaching is exciting. Good. Awesome. Well, I'm going to throw this at the bottom. I'll say more about it in a little bit, but this weekend is Bootcamp weekend. Start Friday, end Sunday. It's our 3-day certification training. We compile everything that you normally would get in the life coach certification course. We start Friday night with Foundations of Coaching, and then we go through all of the training all day Saturday, all day Sunday. So you'll be drinking from a fire hose, but the beautiful thing of it is that you will be knocking out all of your certification training. You just need to turn in your assignments and take the exam, and you are done. So for those of you who have been procrastinating, see what procrastinating? Well, I can help you get through it really quickly. Some of you procrastinate because of the money, and you're like, I don't want to make this big decision. Some of you procrastinate because of your time and the fact that you're going to have to put the work in and everything else. Well, listen, we can make it as painless as possible. You get to join us this weekend. Not only join us this weekend, but you get to connect with other coaches from all over the world. So what do we do during this? You go through the training. Obviously, there's a lot of lecture and training when it comes to that. But there's a lot of interactive time because we do live Q&As at the end of all 7 of those sessions. And you'll get to role play. You'll get to connect with other people. It's a dynamic group of people, brilliant people from all over the world. I would highly recommend that you join us. Let me say hello to a couple of more people. America says, invest in yourself. It is worth it. And America is joining us this weekend. So good. Nikki's joining us from St. Louis, which is great. All right. Well, let's talk about what we're talking about this week. This is the second week of the Life Coach's Guide to Procrastination. And last week, what you learned is that there are 6 procrastination types or procrastinator types. And so I gave you an overview of all 6, and what we're going to do is each week we're going to take on one of those procrastinator types. And what we found for some of you is you actually found your procrastinator type last week. And so what you're going to do, you're going to get 2 things out of this. One is that if you find your procrastinator type, then we're going to help you. But we're also going to be helping you coach the people who exhibit these procrastinator types. You're going to know why they do it, and you're going to know how to help them. And we're going to give you some specific tools. I'm going to show you where they get stuck, and then you're going to have tools to be able to coach them. So having said that, let's start with what this week's procrastinator type actually is, which is the perfectionist. And I want to give you this definition again. We gave you that definition last week, but I want to remind you of it again. The perfectionist doesn't start the task because of a fear of failure. However, for the perfectionist, failure, it's very interesting, it equates to not doing the task perfectly. So the typical perfectionist belief might sound something like, if I don't do the task extremely well, then I am a failure. Well, for perfectionists, and many of you who are watching, here's one of the things that I find amongst coaches is that most coaches are big time overachievers, very well learned people. And the way that imposter syndrome often shows in coaches, which is contagious, it's very prevalent amongst coaches, is that in many cases, that imposter syndrome shows up as perfectionism. And so there seems to be a lot of delays, a lot of starting, but never completely following through and everything else. And what I've identified are 3 big sticking points. I'm going to show you what those sticking points really are and then how to actually coach someone through them. So here's where we start. Sticking point number 1 is that the perfectionist procrastinator has a tendency to spend an excessive amount of time and energy to ensure that everything that they do is flawless. So this sticking point gets them stuck and it keeps them from being able to move forward. So our job as coaches is to help our clients identify the barrier and then help coach them through what's actually holding them up, and also to help them process options so that in many cases they can see with a different lens, and that they actually can come up themselves with the options, the strategy, the tactics, the steps to not get stuck along the way. So how do we do that for this particular sticking point? Well, here's the shift that you have to help your client make. And a big part of that is redefining some things. In this case, we're going to redefine perfection because honestly, perfection's really a myth. We all know that. Nothing's ever truly perfect and nothing is ever truly done, right? But we can't wait on something to be perfect before we can move forward. That means that as we redefine this, the shift means is that we've got to adopt excellence over perfection. There's nothing wrong with excellence because excellence, as we define it here, is all about doing the best you can with the resources that you have and with the time that you have, which is a lot more attainable. And what'll happen is, because what happens in perfectionism is that people get paralyzed, they get stuck because it never seems to be good enough. And it doesn't mean that someone is lowering their standards. What we understand is that perfectionism is an impossible standard because there is nothing that's truly perfect. But we can be excellent. We can be the best that we can be. It's not really lowering a standard, it's actually creating a standard that we can actually grab a hold of that doesn't undermine us. And you know what you can always do? You can always improve. You can always improve from anything that you start. This is why I tell coaches it's really important. I'll speak to all of you coaches, you guys who are perfectionist procrastinators. It's never going to be perfect. I like to tell coaches this. Even bad coaching helps people. The only way that you can actually get really good and excel at coaching, you know how you got to, what allows you to excel is that you got to be willing to do it bad. You got to be willing to do it at the level that you know when you come out, because what will end up happening is that if you can start choosing excellent, then that means that you have a lifetime of improvement and you can start doing it today. You can begin doing things so that you keep an upward trajectory rather than being a perfectionist that never actually starts. So the shift has to be from perfectionism to excellence, because excellence is a very high standard, but it's attainable and we can actually move forward. So here's some coaching questions that if I was coaching someone who is a perfectionist procrastinator, here's how you can help them shift from from perfectionism into excellence. Here's how we would do that. Question one that you can ask: tell me about a time when you were successful, but it wasn't perfect. This is a beautiful way to get them out of their stuck place, because here's what's true is that all of us can look back at a time when we were successful and we know that it wasn't perfect, but it was still a success. We can grab a hold of anything. It's really important to grab a hold of those stories, because what's happening for a perfectionist is that they can't move forward because they think that there's going to be failure over there, which failure, not only a fear of failure, but also a fear of failure of not doing it perfect. What we want to do is that we want to get them out of that fear and we want them to get confident. And you know what I want as well? I want them to feel the emotions that go with being successful, because they're so afraid of failure. They're feeling that emotion. What I want them to feel, I want them to reconnect with the time when they were successful so that they can start feeling good about the process now instead of that being delayed later. Here's the second question. Second question is, what small step can you take right now to move forward, even if it's not perfect? Remember, what we want to do is that we want to get them moving. We want to make sure that they're not stuck, they're not in delay, they're not holding themselves back. And so we're asking them for one small step. Can you take one small step? Something that actually moves us forward. I understand if you can't move 5 steps forward, you can't even move fast, but can we take one step today that begins to move you towards what you want, even if it's not perfect? Here's the third question. How do you decide if a task is good enough to be considered complete? It's an important question. And here's the reason why. I don't have it with me right now, but if I have my phone, one of the things that's true every year is that all of the phone companies, at some time of the year, they release a new version of their phone. Companies do the exact same thing, or they release later versions of software and different kinds of things like that. One of the things that is certain is that when Apple releases its new iPhone, do you know it is not perfect? It is absolutely not perfect. Why? Because what did I say earlier? Perfection is a myth. They know it's not perfect. What they have decided to do is to try different things and to understand consumer needs, and also to use the latest hardware, the latest technology, update their operating system. They have all of these different things that they're trying to do. And you know what? There's all of these app development companies and everything else. So we're trying to please a lot of different people. The reality is that the day that that phone drops, we're going to find out. Apple's going to find out how close to perfection they really got. And if any of you have ever been the day that the latest something came out, you probably found that there were problems. There were problems with the technology, problems with the software, or whatever. That doesn't hurt their feelings at all. What they're going to do is that they're going to respond to it and they're going to make it better, because it was more important to release it with some bugs that they don't know about than to not release it at all. You know what happens if they don't release it? Then that means that they lose market share. It means that people get impatient with the technology. They're always looking for the next greatest thing and everything else. So to keep yourself from becoming antiquated, or to never launch your coaching practice for you personally, it means that you've got to decide what is good enough. And even though and here's the thing, you're never going to get to 100%. You know what that means? Is that you're going to have to decide at a certain point, I can't get to 100%, but maybe 70% is as far as I'm going to be able to bring it. It's as close to perfection as I'm going to feel like it is. And even though that's a C grade for you, it's still going to be an A grade for everybody else. And you know what you can do? Because you got it launched, you got it released, you can always come back and you can change things. This is the encouragement that you also have to give your clients. Here's the next thing. A second sticking point for the perfectionist procrastinators is that they hesitate to start tasks due to a fear of failure or uncertainty about doing them correctly. So, how do we fix that? Well, a big shift here is that we need time management with limits. What do I mean by that? Well, what we need to do to help the client is that we've got to help them create a schedule that includes specific blocks for particular tasks, and encourage them to stick to the time limits and reassess their work once the time is up, emphasizing that moving forward is more important than perfect completion. So, this is the way that we're going to utilize time. Maybe we can emphasize that failure is actually not completing something in a time frame, as opposed to getting held up in tasks that seem to take forever and ever. Some coaching questions around this that you can ask are: how do you decide if a task is good enough to be considered complete? We need the client to really define this. And obviously, they need to redefine what this is if it's a place that's getting them stuck. Second question: what would it look like to focus on progress rather than perfection in your daily tasks? So, again, the emphasis is always on the wrong thing with perfection, because we know it's a myth. We first redefine things so that they're looking for excellence as opposed to perfection. But on this, we want them to focus on progress rather than perfection. How far along did I get? How much did I get done? How much did I get accomplished? The focus has got to be on something. Let's focus them on something that moves them forward. Focusing on excellence in many cases, focusing on perfection is not going to move you forward. Focusing on progress will move you forward. Here's a third question that I would throw in with that. If we can agree that 100% perfect is impossible, what percentage could be acceptable to allow you to move forward? Again, we are wanting them to redefine that. I mean, I think it's really important first to have a lens to say, okay, I agree that perfection is impossible and it's shutting me down. Second thing, though, is that the client, you have to have an agreement with the client to be able to move forward as you're coaching them. So, are we agreed not only about this definition of perfectionism, but are we agreed on a percentage that you can say, hey, at this percentage, I'm going to allow myself to say, this is excellent, this is okay, this is enough, this is presentable enough, or whatever, and that way we can move forward. Again, whatever that percentage is. And for some people, they're probably going to have to be encouraged, like, okay, this can't be 90%. For some people, in their minds, it can't even be 85 or 80%. Some people are only going to get up to 75%, and they're going to get stuck there and not be able to move forward. So that means that we've got to come into some agreement, and we've got to position things ultimately so that the client can win and they can move forward. Here's the third sticking point and the last one for perfectionist procrastinators. And a big one is how they view tasks as obligations rather than activities that they want to do. It's a major thing is that people view perfectionist procrastinators view things that they have to do when you see something as an obligation, when you see something as an I have to do this, then what happens for you? Everybody, a big key motivator for human beings is autonomy. When you feel like you don't have a choice and you don't have a will in the matter, in many cases, it lowers, and in almost every case, it lowers your desire to do something. So, what we have to help our clients do is to begin to reframe the I have to's to an I want to or I choose to. Because what's happening is that you have an inner dialogue that's going on. That inner dialogue that's present is shutting them down. So this big shift is really a shift in vocabulary, because I don't know how much you guys pay attention to your words, but your words create worlds. Your words also can hype you up or they can lower your state. I was teaching this to my advanced skills training crew this weekend. You know, if you say that you hate doing this, I don't want to do this, I shouldn't have to do this, this is so boring, I hate Mondays, all of those kinds of things. You know what you do when you say, I hate a Monday, even? Well, my daughter's the funniest because she's 11 years old. And she said, Mondays shouldn't be a thing. And I'm like, well, every week is going to start with a day regardless. Your work week or your school week's going to start with some day. She's like, well, Mondays shouldn't be a thing. Maybe they shouldn't even make us go to school. I don't think that you should make kids go to school on Mondays. Make them go to school on Tuesdays because Mondays are terrible. And I'm like, what's the difference between Monday and any other day except it's the beginning of the week? But see, our vocabulary, and I teach my daughter this. What you say about Monday, cursing a Monday before you ever start a Monday, is one of the worst things that you could possibly do. But people never pay attention to their words. They're not responsible and disciplined with their mouth. And what happens is that where your mouth goes, the energy flows and your emotions are going to go along with it. Your state will literally follow what your vocabulary says. So that means that even with this, that's a good example for that. But specifically for the task and the things that you don't want to do, you're not doing yourself any favor saying that you hate something, it's boring, I have to do this or whatever. It's always going to steal your motivation. And here's the thing, is that there's going to be some hard task that you don't like doing en route to your goal. That's also why a lot of people don't achieve their goals, because of the hard things. If everything was easy, then everybody would do it. But it's the hard things, and it's usually the small, annoying, mundane, boring things that stop us. So, how do we fix this? Well, again, we're going to reframe in using these kinds of questions. Question one, how can you, we ask the client, how can you reframe your have to task into want to task to create more motivation? So I can say I want to or I choose to. Those are major differences in major upgrades in vocabulary. What would make this task feel more enjoyable or rewarding? It's really important that they have something that engages, the pleasure part of them. Is there a way to make this more enjoyable? Is there a way to make this more rewarding? Can there somehow be something rewarding attached to it that allows them to be motivated? You know, I like to give myself rewards every now and then, especially when I work really, really hard. Sometimes that reward looks like a nap. Even Saturday night after we wrapped up advanced skills training, I remember I got home and I said to my wife, I got home, I ate something. I said, I think I'm going to treat myself to a Dr. Pepper tonight. I think that I actually earned that, but then I ended up crashing for the night, so it didn't actually happen. I think that when you know that and it doesn't matter what the reward is, some kind of a reward. The important thing is when they have something that accomplishing a task has some kind of a benefit. I know we can give people feedback. I know we can encourage them. Way to go. All of those other things. You should always cheerlead in that kind of a way. But they need something that gives them some kind of a motivation to continue going on. And here's a third question that would go along with that. How does this task connect to something meaningful in your life? Sometimes the things that keep you in the trenches and keep you in the game is because there's someone that's going to lose if you don't do it. That's what I would even say to all of you. Who loses the most if you don't get your coaching career started? Who loses the most if you don't go get trained and certified? Probably not you. Probably other people. Not only the people that you would be coaching, but maybe your kids, maybe your spouse, maybe your grandkids, maybe your wallet. I don't know, but there's something that is lost because we won't go out and we won't do the hard things. And so we help our clients be able to connect it with that, and that gives extraordinary motivation. Let me pay the bills really quick. I will say that next week we're going to be talking about worriers, our second procrastinator type, and that's what we're going to be focused on next week. And they're kind of similar to perfectionists. This Thursday, for those of you who have been looking forward to getting trained and certified as a Christian coach, our certified professional, this is our second advanced skills certification that we offer, and it's called Masters Academy. Just as a reminder of what Masters Academy is, it's a new program where and it's specifically for Christian life coaches. We're going to do 6 weekly sessions over Zoom. We'll have those replays available 24 hours later. That's going to include role-playing demos and Q&As. And you're also going to get coaching tools for each pillar of the model that we're teaching. So when I say pillar that we're teaching, this is our own program that we have written ourselves through the IIPP Transformational model. And that's not something that you can learn anywhere else. It's something that's proprietary that we've learned along the way. What you're going to learn is how to put the model in use to help people specifically in Christian coaching get extraordinary breakthrough and really encounter God. Yes, you will earn an advanced CPC credential, and there's also an opportunity to license to be able to train other coaches. It's the first and only program that we're doing like that, so that when you go through this, you're going to have the ability to train your own coaches. So there is a business opportunity that's attached to this as well. The certification for this, you do have to have a basic credential in order to join this program. Please don't enroll if you have not gotten a certification from somewhere, if not us. The cost is only $395, and there is a payment plan available. You can also buy the bundle, and you can get trained and certified at as a coach and get your basic credential while we do these things on Thursdays. This weekend, though, is Bootcamp weekend. So what's happening at Bootcamp weekend? Well, there's 7 powerful weekend sessions. These are the sessions that we are covering, all 7 of them. Foundations of coaching, the anatomy of a dynamic coaching session, how to help your clients get extraordinary results, how to listen on a transformational level, how to ask powerful questions, how to establish a growing coaching practice. And every one of those sessions also include Q&As, and we will also have time for live coaching demonstrations. What's included in this program? 7 sessions with live Q&As and role playing. You're also going to walk away with coaching tools, a number of them. One of them that we give you is the 5-tool coaching starter pack that helps you get transformation with your clients. But you're also going to walk away with question samples. You're going to walk away with coaching agreement and intake samples. One of the big things that we do is that we actually have a template that we've created inside of Canva that you can edit and you can make your own. So all the language is in there. Basically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to give you a welcome pack to start so that you're not having to formulate and find somebody to get that from. Couple of other things. You're going to obviously earn your CLC Life Coach certification. You will get a certificate. You will receive HD replays and handouts. You'll also get free audits for life. You will also get invitations to Tuesday night live training. The cost is only $247. You can enroll for as low as $47. In this program, as are all of our programs at Life Coach Training Institute, are all fully accredited. So you can get trained, you can get certified, you can get all the help that you need from an accredited school. That is that. Let me see if I've got any questions over here that I need to say hello to. Americo says, invest in yourself. It is worth it. I don't know why it didn't show that. Light it up. It's not lighting it up. Let me say hello to Funmi. Gerlinda says the perfectionist reframing. Well, I don't know why it won't show it. Come on. There it goes. Gerlinda says the perfectionist reframing seems to tie in nicely with the value and meaning conversation and reframing and advanced skills training. Good catch. Charlotte says, how would you know? What is going on? What is going on? Let's see what's going on. All right. Everybody's still there. Says that we're connected. All right. Are we connected? Hello. Oh, we are connected. Okay. How would we know initially that our client is a perfectionist? Well, the easiest thing to do is if you go back to last week, I gave you a little quiz. So the easiest thing to do is you can totally steal those questions off of, and most people will say, I'm a perfectionist. They usually already know. But last week, I actually gave a little quiz that you could take yourself or give to other people, and it'll help them determine if they have those tendencies. Another question, joining Charlotte's question about recognizing the perfectionist, especially when it's close to the worrier. Yeah, it is very, very close because there's a lot of the same kinds of things. What are audits? That just means that you get to come back for free in the future. Awesome. Do you have LCTI in Spanish? We do not, because I don't speak Spanish. Awesome. Well, very good. Well, listen, everybody. I don't know what we had some kind of a glitch for a second there where we got disconnected, but it looks like we're back. So listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Listen, the link to enroll in either Jumpstart or any of these programs, you're going to find those inside of the info, the video info of this particular video. I'm going to highly encourage you to just click on there and get enrolled as quickly as possible. This weekend is basically here. If you don't do it now, you're probably going to forget. So jump in there. Go on. Listen, if you haven't gotten trained and certified yet, stop procrastinating. Like you're it's not going to happen in the future. I'll watch people and they'll flirt around with things and they'll sign up for a free course or they'll sign up for an email list. It doesn't mean anything until you actually do it. You got to take that step. So let's make it happen. And hopefully I'll see you this weekend. Listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Have a great rest of your week and take care. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. As we always begin, do me a huge favor. You see this? Let us know that you're here. Tell us where you're joining us from, what you're excited about, what you feel life and momentum on. Also, leave your comments about what we're talking about and some of your own insights because this is a learning community and you guys are showing up from all over the world. You're brilliant people, and you're going to have some invaluable insights, not just me. Hey, want to take a quick second and congratulate everyone who made it through Bootcamp this weekend. We had a global group of coaches, brilliant people. I really enjoyed myself. Amazing people who went through our 3-day certification program. There's another one coming up at the end of June. So for those of you who are, well, we're talking about procrastination, right? Procrastinator types. Maybe the way to get through all of it is to join us on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and just knock it all out in a single weekend. It is a lot of work. That's why I sound like I do. It is a lot of work. So I've got to commend all of those people who joined us this weekend, and welcome to the LCTI family, especially if you're watching again, which is crazy that you spent all this time with me and now you're here again. I don't quite understand. Now, let me give you guys a hint really on the front end, and a couple of things. One is it's Memorial Day. And first off, I want to thank all of the families who you had someone in your family that gave all. Doesn't matter if it was in the last 5 years or it was 100 years ago. I want to just say thank you to the people who have served and have paid an ultimate price for us to be able to do what we're doing today, which is to live free in this country. And I know that we are not a perfect country in the United States, but we're worth fighting for. And we get the privilege today to make choices, to make our lives better, to build businesses, and to help the world globally through coaching because people went out and thought it was worth fighting for and gave everything so that we could be here today. And I really appreciate that. Second thing that I would say about holidays in general and why I'm kind of not taking the day off. One thing that you guys need to know as coaches, a lot of times what coaches do when it gets around a holiday or it gets around some kind of a celebratory moment, they think that no one's paying any attention and they shut their business down. They do this around Thanksgiving. They do this around Christmas. Did you know that Thanksgiving time, not Thanksgiving time, but like November, December are massive business months for coaches? And so what happens is while everybody else is pulling the plug and particularly other coaches and everything else, your people are often in the most undistracted time because they're available. They have their phone and it's late at night or they're scrolling on social media. They're not having to work that day or whatever. And they get a chance to actually think about their life and decompress and think about the things that they actually want. So one reason why I'm actually on today and doing this today is because some of you are actually those people that you enjoyed your festivities with your family all day. You did some of those things, and I'm here because you're here. And so it's another thing is that you've got to understand is that your people, when you take a day off or a week off, your people are still looking at their social media, social media channels and different things like that where they follow you and you're not there, but somebody else is. Or maybe they're looking for you to be there. And so you want to be there, even if you have to record it and post it later, which it's actually 11 in the morning, just as a secret. It's 11 in the morning over here in California. But I'm going to spend time with my family today. But I got to put the work in and I've got to serve you as well. Not neglecting my family. They're going to sleep in and they're going to get up and then we're going to go to the beach today. But I am here this evening with you, but it is recorded. So that's why I won't be going through comments and everything else. I could probably call out some names that'll probably be some people who are on here, but I won't do that. Either way, I'm not going to hold back and we're going to have a lot of fun and we're going to jump into this next procrastinator type. Let me hide that. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been in this series called The Life Coach's Guide to Procrastination. We had some great conversations about it this weekend, actually, in our boot camp. And so I was actually telling some of our students who went through that program to go back in time a couple of weeks ago, pick up the first two, and this is the third one. So a couple of weeks ago, I described the 6 procrastinator types. We actually did a little quiz. Some of you found out what kind of a procrastinator you are because pretty much everybody is to some degree. Last week we talked about perfectionists. This week we're talking about worriers. Now, what I need to do is I need to remind you of the definitions of what each one of these types are. So let me do that really quickly. A worrier is a person who doesn't start that important or difficult task because they don't believe they'll be able to do it. They fear they won't succeed. They feel anxiety at the thought of failure. Thus, it is better to not start the task as you can't feel the negative emotions associated with failure if you don't make an attempt in the first place. The issue with this logic is you're guaranteed to fail if you don't start. The typical procrastinating belief associated with a worrier is I won't be able because, and they'll fill in the blank, even if it's something that they're stuck in their head about. Well, here's the thing. If you don't choose, for those of you who found out that that was your procrastinator type a couple of weeks ago, to not choose is actually to choose. I don't know if you ever thought about that. So even some of you who have been procrastinating on either starting your business or getting trained and certified or whatever. I always tell our coaches because I know I'm talking to coaches and we're going to find ourselves in one of these types. If you are a worrier type, if this is kind of you, and here's what I would say is if you've Googled becoming a life coach or becoming a coach, getting certified as a coach more than like 2 times in your lifetime, that means that you're procrastinating. It means that you already know what you need to do, but there is something that's actually preventing you from doing it. And if you're a worrier, these are some of these things of this fear that you won't succeed, this fear of failure that looks like this. And the thing is that if you don't choose, you're actually making a choice. And honestly, if you don't choose, then we don't know what could have happened. We don't know who you could have been. I always say this, if you don't choose, who are the people that lose the most if you won't choose? It might be you, but if I know your personality type and there's a certain personality type of coaches, you're actually thinking about the rest of the world most of the time. You're thinking about your family most of the time. You're thinking about your children most of the time. And yes, you do think about your destiny and purpose. And yes, you do think about making better money and getting out of a 9 to 5 that you don't like and stuff like that. But it's always unto something greater. I know that. So you have to ask that question. And it's an important question. Who loses the most if you don't choose to do something? And that really puts failure in a category together that it's like, okay, this is the way that I can process this. It really helps me understand who is losing because there's a fail that's happening. It means that if we fail to do things, then that also means that the people that we were meant to help are not going to come into their destiny, are not going to come into their purpose. Imagine if somebody that you were supposed to be coaching was going to be the person who discovers cures to rare cancers, but they had self-doubt and they had limiting beliefs and they had a lot of other things and they had some setbacks and they decided not to go because they were afraid of failing or whatever was going on. But it really required us to step up so that we can bring the watermark higher for other people. I mean, I really think of it in those kinds of ways. Who loses the most? And maybe it's your children, maybe it's your house, maybe it's you. I don't know. But I think that we need to grab a hold of what that is to motivate us out of this place where we're kind of stuck and procrastinating. But let's dial in a little bit more on this particular procrastinator type, which is a worrier. And there's a few sticking points that are specifically for worriers that we want to identify. And I want to give you some tools to be able to help them. And we're going to get in and out of here pretty fast tonight, I think, because I know some of you guys aren't done hanging out with your family, or maybe you're just super tired from being at the beach all day or whatever you did. So let's do this. Sticking point number one is that worriers tend to be indecisive and often fail to commit themselves to the specific decisions that they do make. And so there's two parts of this. They're indecisive. I say this a lot. When you're indecisive, you most of the time you don't really know what's most important. Or what I would say is you are indecisive. And so it looks like you're making a decision, but your heart hasn't fully committed in the decision. And so there ends up being a lack of follow through, because what I always say is what you are most committed to is what you actually do. So I use this example as well. If someone started in January and they went on, they start going to the gym and they started a diet, and then 3 months in, or even not even 3 months in, but let's just say 3 months in, they're not even near the gym anymore and they've gone back to the way that they were eating before. Some people might say something like, oh, it was unsustainable, and they might make some excuses, but the reality is that you were committed to something more. You had a divided commitment. Maybe it was a commitment to being more comfortable, not dealing with the pain, not getting up early in the morning, not eating bland food, not giving up sugar, whatever it is. That was actually what the greatest commitment was to. And so sometimes you'll see your clients seem to make a commitment to something, but what'll end up happening is that you'll notice that they're not fully committed. They seem to be saying, "Hey, I'm taking on this goal. This is something that I want to achieve," but there's some part of their heart that is divided, and we need a fully committed heart. Otherwise, you stay where you were before. So how do you actually deal with this sticking point? Well, here's how we deal with it. I understand that starting out, there's a lot of overwhelm that's involved in starting any kind of a goal, especially if somebody has been stuck. If I look at my life right now, and let's say that I'm at level 0, and the life that I want is level 10. Let's say that level 0 is I'm working a 9 to 5 and I know what I can count on. I don't really love it, but I know what I can count on in terms of the finances and what's going to happen in my work day and all of this other stuff. And it's a safe place, and I like my coworkers, and it's not too stressful or whatever, but I hate it. But I want something more, and I'm at 0, and I haven't been doing anything, exactly like starting a coaching career, which I'm picturing myself in the future. Coaching career over here, level 10, making 6 figures, controlling my own schedule, working with clients, enjoying it, fully alive and everything else. Well, my life right now probably doesn't resemble that at all in terms of getting, my job may not be very purposeful. I don't have a whole lot of momentum. My bank account right now does not look the same as a 6-figure coach or whatever. And so to look at this, what ends up happening, instead of realizing that we take incremental steps towards something, you know what it actually kind of looks like? It kind of looks like, well, I'm on this level and I'm looking at, this is a little dramatic, isn't it? I'm on this level and I'm looking up and I'm like, I have no idea how this version of me could be this version of me, because you're overwhelmed by how far you've got to go. And you're like, okay, what is all this going to require and everything else? And the more information you get, the more daunting it feels. So what we have to do as coaches is that we need to help people reduce the overwhelm. Now, generally speaking, we do help people set goals and set action steps to lead them there. And the thing that helps people get out of overwhelm is that if you knew that you only had 10 steps to get from here to there, then if you're on step 2, you at least know where you are. You can look back and say, here's where I was, but I'm 20% towards, coming into this or whatever. So what we can do to help reduce overwhelm on the front end is to actually give them manageable steps. So as we are working towards a goal, it's a normal thing to help our clients clarify what the goal is and what is it going to take to get there. But for some people, especially, we need to give them a win, and we want them to feel good about it. And we want to win really quickly. And so sometimes overwhelm is so much that, you know what, a small step, even a baby step, is at least a step towards here. You know that one step is still 10% closer to my goal than doing nothing. And we need to really encourage our clients with that perspective. And so here's a few questions that you can use, some coaching questions for people who are warriors, and specifically with this sticking point. What is one small step you can take today towards making a decision on this task? That's one question. Here's the second question. How can you break this large task into smaller, more manageable steps? So let's think about it. Even, we've got all aspiring coaches or coaches here. There's somebody who's like, oh, well, what's it going to take to go from here to start my coaching career? Because, and it feels like, okay, it seems like there's a massive, okay, I'm going to have to go get trained. I'm going to have to get certified. And then I've got to try to figure out how I find clients. And we have all this other stuff. That's why we actually started a Jumpstart program. So I realized a lot of coaches were getting trained and certified and they didn't know how to start their business. And so you know what we did? We boiled all of the work down to simple steps and took all the guesswork away. And then what we did is we always give our coaches a course progression. Here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3, like literally we break it down. And when you know where you are, and you can even have those big overall, like if you've got 4 or 5 steps, when you can break them down to smaller steps and you give people support, which is what coaches do, then you can help people stay encouraged because they know that they are taking steps towards things, and we're also not overwhelming them. We don't want to devalue the small steps because the small steps matter. I just want them to get started. Whatever step that is, get started and then see where it brings you. For some of you who haven't gotten your coaching career started at all, take a baby step today. At least enroll in our free course and find out what the heck it's about. Kick the tires. My wife always says that's how you know that you're a middle-aged man, because you say kick stuff like kick the tires. Also, I'm wearing Under Armour, and I learned that about 2 months ago that if you wear Under Armour that you're officially middle-aged. So I guess I am, but I like it. So I don't know. All right, let's keep going. Sticking point number 2, the lack of confidence in their own abilities, which causes them to avoid or delay doing things. This is a major one that I see amongst coaches. Well, how do we deal with it? Well, there's 2 parts of this that I would encourage you. If you've got a client that is a warrior, we can do a couple of things. We want to upgrade their perception with reframing and with their vocabulary. Because what happens a lot of times, people's vocabulary about themselves, their own self-doubt and everything else. Now, it doesn't mean that it always comes out of their mouth, but sometimes it comes out of their mouth. But it's definitely happening in here. Vocabulary really matters because you can escalate and you can de-escalate situations based on the language that you use. So what happens is that the words that we use, if they sound powerless, if they sound like a victim, if they sound like it's daunting, if the words sound like, and they mean, oh, I'm stuck here, I'm not gifted, I'm not talented, oh, this is going to take me forever, this seems impossible. This is going to be a lot of work, or I'm really overwhelmed. And you know what ends up happening? The vocabulary that you use really amplifies your emotional state towards whatever word that you're using. So a hyped up word that is around it being daunting and being overwhelmed and everything else, you know what you're going to do? You're going to feel really, really like everything's going to kick in. Your brain's going to kick in. You know what? I can use language and alter my state anytime that I want, mental and emotional, for better or for worse. So you'll hear this sometimes. You'll hear people say stuff like, I'm about to explode. I'm about to go off on these people. And you know what they do? They go off on those people. They predicted it, but they elevated their emotional state. But you also see athletes do it through great self-talk. I watched a runner just yesterday that they had them mic'd up, and the way that they were talking to themselves, and they were kind to themselves, and they were encouraging, and they were uplifting, and it was a big, you can do this, you're going to do this. It wasn't dissing other people, but they had a vocabulary that helped them stay focused, and it brought them to the proper emotional state and mental state that made them feel like, I can actually do this. I'm actually really competent and this can happen. So language is a really big one. And then just reframing. What is reframing? Reframing is when we use it in a coaching situation, what we're trying to do is that we're trying to help them highlight and focus on whatever, if they're looking from a perspective of, well, I'll do this again. If they're looking at it from a perspective of, this is really overwhelming. Well, this is a really bad perspective if I look up and it's not encouraging me. I can help the client come from another angle and look at something. That's what a reframe is. We can reframe anything. We can tell a story that allows the client to be empowered, feel competent, and feel like they can actually move forward. And so we want to use both of those things with this particular issue. So the way we speak hypes up negative emotions, which makes it even harder to take action. So what do we want to do? We want to help the client transform negative self-limiting statements into more positive action-oriented ones. And this builds confidence and reduces the fear of failure. So here's some coaching questions that we can utilize. How can you turn I don't know into one thing I do know is, and that helps them create clarity? Here's another question. What can you say to yourself instead of I can't that opens up possibilities and solutions? When somebody says I can't, they take themselves out of the game. And you know what happens when you say I can't? Your reticular activating system doesn't get engaged. What is this? We've got this system in us that helps us find solutions. When you say I can't, you take yourself out of the game and nothing happens. When you say something like, how can I? All of a sudden, now I'm saying that I can, and I'm looking at possibilities. And so what will end up happening is that you will find the solution at that point. Third thing, how can you reframe a past success to boost your confidence in your current abilities? So one of the things that happens a lot of times when people hype themselves up in the negative states and everything else, they're really obsessed on what's happened in the past, and it's stealing their joy for the future and their hope for the future, or they are stirring themselves up with the picture that could be failure or whatever. The best way to get somebody in and quickly get them in a state where they are more resourceful is to get them thinking about when they were successful, when maybe the odds were against them and they did end up being successful. So, and here's the cool thing is that anything that you imagine, whether it is past, present, or thinking about the past, thinking about the present, or you imagine the future, all of those seem to have an emotional benefit, a mental benefit to them, or they can actually lower it and make us less resourceful. So if we start thinking about positive things and reliving positive experiences, you get the present reality of it feels really good when you think. That's why when you get together with friends and you talk about really funny old times, it feels really, really good. And you can feel a lot of those emotions that were really good from those times and everything else. All right, here's the third one. The third sticking point is that often worriers have a high resistance to change, preferring the safety of what is known over the risk of what is unknown. And so it really holds people in their spot. So let's say we want a new career. You want a new career. You want to leave what you're doing onto a new coaching career. But see, what keeps you where you are is, even though it's not satisfactory and you don't like it, you don't enjoy it, it's a grind. Well, you know what to expect. So you stay there. And so the more that you are in this known space, and you're afraid of what could possibly, like, you like to think about what could happen in the future, but you're also afraid, and you've got, if your fear is outweighing what you really want, you're going to basically stay where you're at. So what we want to do in this case is that we want to challenge them out of their comfort zone. What do I mean by that? You want to encourage the client to do at least one thing each day that they've been putting off, and one thing each week that takes them out of their comfort zone. And what happens is that on a mental and emotional level, we're retraining the brain, we're retraining uh, these people internally. They're training themselves for resilience. And so what happens is, and where do we see this? We see this with athletes that show up big time at the end of the game, and they want the ball in their hands, and they show up and do amazing things. People like Michael Jordan, we can think of those people. People like Kobe Bryant, thinking of people who are like in sports, showed up really big when the game was on the line. Now, what was important is that the way that they practiced had everything to do with those moments. Michael Jordan, if you learned about his mental game, he was a mental juggernaut out there. People would say he was mean and all this other stuff, but the reality is that he had pushed himself to such a level that his comfort zone was way, 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 way over here. And everybody else, even though they might have had just as much talent and just as much skill, or more so, or even more athleticism than Michael Jordan. Yes, he had all of those things, but he had a mental game that was off the charts. And it's because he pushed himself. He pushed himself back past the comfort zone. There's been plenty of people who had just as much skill in athleticism as Michael Jordan, but they didn't become the GOAT, and they didn't become the amazing player that they could have been. Matter of fact, those people shut down. There's a lot of those players that end up getting criticized at a certain point. They play all great in the regular season. They get to the playoffs and they're nowhere to be found. And suddenly they can't hit the same shots, and they can't make the same passes, and they make a lot of mistakes. What is going on there? It's this principle right here. They're not truly resilient in these places. Michael Jordan would put all kinds of pressure on himself in his mental preparation and everything else, so that when it came to the game was on the line, it was as easy as practice, because he had already practiced that moment hundreds and thousands of times. So that, you know what happened? His body got used to doing hard things. And now this felt as easy as practice, because again, he's been practicing it so many times. That's the way we help people build resilience. So what are some questions that we could ask people? One, what is one thing you've been putting off that you can tackle today? Not put it off, tackle today. Listen, I want to remind you of something that we teach in the Life Coach Certification course and in Bootcamp. As a coach, you have to have a lens when you look at people and not see them fragile and not think that pushing them is a bad thing. You need to be able to push your clients. Because what will happen is that if you can push them past their comfort zone, they will suddenly start gaining confidence, and they will relate to themselves differently. Actually, you know what happens? Here, I'll give you a perfect example. There was a warning shot fired back in like the 80s and early 90s from a particular psychologist. And the warning shot was against the self-esteem movement. The self-esteem movement believed that if you experienced failure, you would not recover from it. So you know what they did is they told all these things to parents, and they told all these things to like teachers and everything else. And then they started not having standards, and they started not having grades in some cases, and not having entry exams. And then we started giving away participation trophies. Now, here's the thing. Here's the effect that it had. Because those people were not tested, and we thought that, that it would be really detrimental to their mental health and everything else. Now they can't handle anything. from puberty to even going on the first job interview by themselves. This is what we've devastated, because self-esteem actually is built through resilience, not from taking resistance away. You need resistance. You need to do the tough things. You need to do, I'm talking to some people right now. You need to do some stuff you're afraid of doing. You need to do some stuff and test yourself, because what will actually break you out of self-doubt and give you confidence is actually that you went through the resistance and you did it. That's what was true for all of you, whether you were a new mom in your 20s or even as a teenager, whether you were some dude who lost their job, and it never came back in 2008, and you had to rebuild a new career. You had to put yourself out there again. You had to learn new skills, and you needed to redefine yourself and everything else. And what ends up happening is that the people who go through things, this is what you'll find out from a lot of these multimillionaires and even billionaires, they can go back to times when they were broke, when they had less than $100 in the bank account, maybe thousands of dollars in debt, and everything else. They could have given up and they could have quit. But the resistance does something to you. And that's what actually gives you self-esteem. That's actually what gives you confidence in life, because you've been through it. That's why if somebody comes to you, I'm laughing about this, because I would have people come up to me and my wife, and they would talk about, we really want to have kids, but we just can't afford it. And I'm like, who could? They always are like, hey, if we could get all of these things in order, then we could go towards this thing, and I'll have confidence. You don't have confidence until you do it. You don't have confidence. You're not going to be ready to raise a kid. We read all kinds of books and everything else. None of our kids were anything alike. All of them had weird symptoms, and the doctors would say, oh, that's nothing, that's totally normal. Oh, that wasn't in a book, whatever. They all did different things. You know what? We all figured it out. Resilience made us show up in their lives. And on the other side, we have confidence. It's like, yeah, you could raise another kid. Not that you necessarily want to at your age or whatever, but you could do it. And you can tell other people, hey, you've got what it takes to do this. There's not going to be a class that, for all of us, if you think about it, there was probably no parenting class that gave you any encouragement. There was probably nothing that you could read that would fix everything. That's what's true. There's no reel you can watch on Instagram from this super mom that's like, here's what you do. And we're like, oh, thank you. I wondered what the answer was for the last 40 years of my life. No. You know where you learned it? Hard, it was hard. Staying up all night, praying, holding them, persisting. And what ends up happening? You figure out what works and you find it. And then on the other side. Now, here's the thing. Starting a coaching practice isn't as hard as raising a kid. You guys have done that. That's one thing that I can say. You've done much harder things than starting a coaching practice. The job that you're in right now, much harder than starting a coaching practice, in my opinion. So I just want to say that. I'm not saying that this is even going to be hard. Man, if you've raised children, if you made it through the 80s and the 90s or the 2000s, you made it through the pandemic, you are perfectly fit and ready and credible. You've been through much harder things. And that's why, and there's something in resilience that you learned that tells me that you're ready to do it. But you know what? To go to a new place, you're going to have to go through some unknown things and embrace it. Learn to embrace the unknown. Learn to embrace learning. Learn to embrace your growth. Learn to see things not as painful. Resistance isn't painful unless you view it that way. It's like going to the gym. First time you go to the gym, you can't walk for 3 days afterwards. Like, what did I do to myself? I think I injured myself. But what happens is that people who are serious about working out and all those other things, they actually look for they know that resistance is doing something. If they feel a little bit of a pain, it's a growth pain. It's not you're losing your life. You're actually getting healthier. So they look for the resistance and they add resistance, because adding resistance tells them that they're getting breakthrough, they're getting stronger, and they're becoming more like, and then they can look in the mirror and say, I'm looking more like I want to look. It's exactly the same principle. So we don't want to, as coaches, ever think that people are just going to get destroyed. They can be bent, they can be flexible, they're not going to be broken. This is actually going to help them because that's what retraining the brain and retraining your mental and emotional states looks like. Let me give you two more questions and we're wrapping up. What is one thing you can do this week that takes you out of your comfort zone? We need to know that. We need to push our clients to do those things. Who can you rely on for support and encouragement as you move forward with this task? Obviously, we will be those kinds of people, but we can encourage them as well to find the people who are the best means of support for them. Next week, we're going to talk about how do you coach dreamers, the dreamer procrastinator. And I'm looking forward to this one. You know why? Because I am a dreamer procrastinator. So if you want to find out what Paul's procrastination type is like and how to coach somebody like me, you'll join me next week. Let me pay the bills really quick and we're going to get out of here. For those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, here's what I would recommend if you were coming out of the gate. I'd recommend our Jumpstart program. Here's the reason why. It's $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. You get trained and certified. Here's the thing. You guys are already looking at programs and you know what training and certification costs out there in the industry, and it's anywhere between like $4,000 to $14,000 if you're going through an accredited school. We are an accredited school, but we don't have a sales team. One of the reasons why these programs cost so much is because they're paying a sales team at least a quarter of what you're paying. We get asked to promote other people's programs and they're like, we'll give you 25%. And we're like, okay, that's like stealing from people. Why don't you just lower the price of your program to make it manageable so that you don't have to have a sales team and hype things up or whatever? It's crazy that we actually have had programs that say if you'll sell this to your students, we would actually make more money just being an affiliate and just selling other people's programs or whatever. But I'm not going to allow my who I am to be leveraged in that kind of a way. We're trying to make a way where I take all of your excuses away. So if you have a financial excuse and that's the reason why you're not getting started or whatever, I don't think that you should start with debt like I did as a coach. I think that you could actually get started. I think that you can get trained and certified in an accelerated way, and we can give you the business development steps to help you thrive as a coach. So you do get trained and certified as a coach. You're going to get 2 programs for certification when you enroll in Jumpstart. One of them is our life coach certification course. It's self-paced, so you can go through all the modules self-paced. There's 7 total modules that have assignments and activities and coaching exercises and all of those other things. And it concludes with an exam. That program, the Life Coach Certification course, also allows you access to Tuesday night training, which is optional. So every Tuesday night from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific time, I go through those modules. We connect with the students, and we also do a Q&A. So that way, you're not just downloading a certificate from some website. You can actually interact with me and with other students all over the world. You can find homework buddies, accountability, all those things. We also had our boot camp this past weekend, but when you join Jumpstart, it's included. That 3-day certification program where we do a super accelerated version of the Life Coach Certification course, you get that as a part of Jumpstart. You also get Brand Camp. Brand Camp is 13 hours. I walk you step by step on how to develop marketing messaging. I show you how to do search engine optimization. That alone, I can show people and help them successfully get on page 1 of Google. And it's not hard to do. I show you how to do it. And you go through, and that alone would be worth thousands of dollars. But we show you how to create sales pages. How do you develop websites that are high converting? How do you write emails that are that people will actually open and actually respond to? We have students who are getting email open rates of like 70%, and emails like almost free for people to actually create. You create their email account and use for business and everything else. All of these things that we do in here, how to discover your niche, all of those other things are actually included in Brand Camp. We also give you the coaching product launch blueprint. The coaching product launch blueprint is for everything from business launches, group coaching, online courses, webinars, workshops, all of those things. What are we doing in this? Well, we take you from brainstorming idea all the way to launch. And what we do during that time is you'll know the the steps. So not only will you formulate and come up with a couple of product ideas, but you're going to figure out which one of these it would actually work in terms of a mode of delivery. I'm a really big proponent of developing multiple streams of income for your business, so that you're not just trying to do one-on-ones and hustle to find clients and stuff like that. This is included in Jumpstart. All these things for only $97 a month. That's the cost of Starbucks daily. It's a 3-month minimum commitment. And this is for cheap cup of coffee Starbucks if you don't leave a tip. $3.25 a day. Compare this to anything else in the market. If you're not certain, we haven't built trust with you yet, go on the rest of our YouTube, look at the videos and stuff that I create there, and let that speak to you. Look at the reviews, even from this weekend, that are on our website right now, that we've got literally hundreds of Google verified reviews, and we have a 4.9 something rating with all of our students that we've been working with. Enroll in our mini course and get firsthand experience of what it's like when I train people and everything else. Let that be the verdict to help get you over the hump. But if you're just at this point, well, I know that this is going to be the school, and just do it. The link's inside the description. Click that link, get enrolled, and let's make this thing happen. Listen, happy Memorial Day. I appreciate you guys all immensely. Thanks so much for spending your Memorial Day night with us. Or if it's Tuesday and you're watching this on a replay all day, thanks so much for taking your time with us. Listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Have a great rest of your week and take care. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. As we begin, do me a huge favor. You see right here? Whoop. Do that for us. Let us know that you're here. Jump inside of the chat. Do me 2 favors. First favor, like this post and share it. It tells Facebook and YouTube that we are doing a good job. If you've ever joined us for a Mentor Monday, you know that we don't do fluffy Monday nights. We always try to give you something that either helps you grow as a coach on the skill side, or it helps you create a thriving, growing coaching practice. We want to be both. And tonight we're actually continuing a series. We're really helping in the coaching skill side of things. So let us know that you are here. Let me say hello to a couple of people. Katie is joining us from Seattle. Good to see you. Americo is joining us from, oh, you didn't put it in there. You just said hello. I believe Americo is in New York. Shannon's joining us from Tampa, Florida. Good to see you. Emily is saying hello, joining us from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Gerlinda also joining us from New York. Glad to be back. Just spent a week close to your part of the world. Could use some Miracle Grow to get back on track. Awesome. Well, I hope it was a good California visit, assuming you went to California. Sandy's joining us from New Jersey. Laura is joining us from Grand Junction, Colorado. Kimberly is joining us from Chicago. Good to see you. Yolanda is joining us from Richmond, Virginia via New York City. Oh, wait. Americo and Yolanda. That's right. You were in New York City and now you live in Virginia. That's right. Okay. Forgive me. I was close. All right. Hey, if you have not yet, let us know that you are here. We haven't jumped into the content yet, but let us know you're here. Jump inside of the comments and tell us where you're joining us from, what you're excited about, and what you feel momentum on in your life. Also, any questions for tonight, we'll be answering those. Also, do me a huge favor, like this post and share it. It tells Facebook and YouTube that we're doing a good job. That's how the algorithm works, folks. People watch it and they share it and they interact with it, and it gets a lot of love and they show it to more people. That's essentially the way that it all works in social media world. Um, so where have we been over the last few weeks? Well, we are in week 4 in this new series. Well, I guess it's not new anymore. It's a month old, right? Close to brand new series, The Life Coach's Guide to Procrastination. And what we did in the first week is I introduced you to the 6 procrastinator types. Some of you didn't even know that there are different types of procrastinators. We introduced you to those at a high level. And what we're doing is each week we're looking at each type. Now, if you don't know what type of procrastinator that you actually are, because we're assuming that everybody is a procrastinator to some degree, go back to week 1. You can take the little quiz and you can find out which procrastinator type that you are. And since we did that quiz and we understand at least a high level of what those different types are, we're going through each week. We've already covered perfectionists, we've already covered warriors. And this week we are in the third type, which are dreamers. And we're going to be talking about how you coach the dreamer procrastinators. Let me say hello to a couple more people. Denise, who is joining us from Birmingham, Alabama. And MJ is joining us from Texas. Is it Waxahachie, Texas? Diane is joining us from South Carolina. All good stuff. So, oh, the dreamer procrastinator. I am a dreamer procrastinator, folks. I don't know if any of you other people are dreamer procrastinators, but I am a dreamer procrastinator. And so I'll be speaking to myself and coaching myself and also letting you in on what makes us tick so that you can help us in the future, not get stuck and not fulfill our purpose, our destiny, or come into our potential. Okay. So let's go back in time and give you the definition of a dreamer procrastinator type. And here's what the dreamer is: the dreamer doesn't think they should have to work hard to get what they want. They think it should all just fall in their laps. Whoa, that stings. It really stings because I'm a dreamer procrastinator, but it's so true. All right, we'll keep going then. So they think it should all fall into their lap, and we've all met or even been the dreamer. Huge ideas, but does very little about them. The thought of daily tasks involved in fulfilling the dream either bores, overwhelms, or frustrates them. Now, there's a couple of other procrastinator types that you're going to find that is true as well. The fact that a lot of times when it comes with the work that is involved in getting something done, there's a lot of boredom. There's a lot of steps and there's little things that get that have to be done. And here's what I would say about a dreamer in particular, since I am one. We love to dream. We love to be visionary, because here's what I'll tell you. Most of the visionary people that I coach, most of the executives, this is a notorious problem for executives at a certain level, the CEO types. There are other executives, but the CEO types, the leader types, the person who has the big idea, the big dreams. We're always really, really good at being visionary. We're always really good at the big picture. We're excited about the big picture, and the big picture wakes us up in the morning, wakes us up in the middle of the night. We see it. We motivate people to it. All of those other things. We just hate execution. And so what has to happen when I see leaders who have this personality type, They have to have somebody with them that executes for them in most cases in an organization. Otherwise, they don't have an organization. So you'll have the big visionary types. And sometimes you're like, how did this person get anything done? The only thing that they know is big picture stuff. And they tend to be really, really impractical. They seem to not know what's going on in the day to day, and they're not particularly interested. You guys have probably all worked with or known someone who is like that. So what happens when you have a CEO type or you have someone who started some kind of a big business or an organization? They usually didn't have a coach that helped them. You know what they ended up having? They ended up hiring someone who is really, really good at the practical day by day, really good with people, whatever that looks like. Whatever exhausts the dreamer ends up being the things that they do not want to do. So here's the thing is that most people that are dreamers do not have someone who can execute for them. So they never really get launched. And they just sit around dreaming all the time. What could be? Well, this would be great. What would it look like if we did this? What would it look like if we did this? Oh, and they got journals all over the place of pictures, and maybe they even have a vision board or whatever, but they have no practical reality of how those things get done. And this is why they need coaches, because, like I said, most people are not going to have someone who will do the kinds of things that they don't want to do. See, if you've got a big organization, you've got a big company, and you can pay somebody 50, 60, 75, 100, $200,000 to do this. If you will find some people who are really, really good at executing. They're really, really good at taking your big idea and doing the daily tasks that it requires, the planning, the strategic stuff, the dealing with people, because sometimes dreamers aren't real relational. A lot of them are actually pretty introverted. And so they find it actually exhausting. Like, I'm going to have to talk to people. I'm going to have to go and meet people. That's exhausting. I don't want to leave my house. They want to dream. And so they don't get the dream fulfilled. Oh, I've got to do administrative stuff. Oh, I got to learn social media. I got to start putting things in a calendar because I can't keep up with things. I got to send emails. I got to do a report. And so whatever they find, those tasks exhaust them before they ever start, and they demotivate them. So you know what dreamers do? They sneak off somewhere and they find a way to sit around dreaming and writing pictures on napkins and all kinds of stuff. And every now and then they'll resurface. But honestly, the overwhelm that is involved with daily tasks and the boredom keeps them from ever really starting or getting very far. So they'll start and stop all the time. It's those kinds of people that you find that have probably had 10 different dreams, and all of them might have it sound like really good dreams, and they're excited talking about the dream. They're just not excited about getting anything done about it, because the dreams over here, it's the steps along the way that it's like maybe they get to step one, maybe they get to step two. And so these are people who potentially could do things, but their follow through is terrible. So how do we help those people? How do you help someone like me? I mean, the thing is that obviously there are things that I have absolutely been able to put together in my life, right? And so some of these things, some of these questions and everything else were very applicable during those times and everything else. But I will say this, there were other things that never got off of the table, never got off of the planning, uh, the planning wall or the drawing board or anything else. There's plenty of those things that I could probably go back to in life. Started for a little while with a lot of excitement, but see, you can't just get excited about vision in the dream. You got to somehow execute. And so we've got to help people who have this procrastination type not get stuck along the way, because they might actually be made to do some really amazing kinds of things. I was just making sure that I didn't miss anyone. So how do we help? How do we help people? Well, here's how we help them. First sticking point for dreamers is lofty dreams without clear, actionable steps to achieve them. And since there's only a big picture, the lack of clear, actionable steps leads them to frustration and obviously inaction. So they're not doing anything. So, how do we help someone with this particular sticking point? Well, here's how. Here's the shift. we've got to help them distinguish between dreaming and taking action, because dreaming and taking action are not the same thing. You got some people who sit around dreaming all the time, and it makes them feel like they're doing something because they're sitting around dreaming. And, they like to hear the speakers, they like to watch the reels, they like to do all of this busy work that involves mapping things and ideas and everything. And sometimes, there's a certain amount of satisfaction that they get out of that. And it actually feels like you're doing something, but you're not doing anything. And sometimes dreamers don't realize that. So, what we've got to do is we've got to encourage the client to unpack their dreams in detail, not in vague, lofty stuff, but in detail. And then when they unpack their dreams in detail, we help them break down each dream into specific, achievable goals. So let's look at some of those questions that we might ask. Question one: what are some of your long term dreams and how do they align with your current goals? Yes, dreamers have not thought about these kinds of things. It's why we have to ask the question. Second question: what specific steps can you take to turn one of your dreams into a concrete goal? Because one of the things that happens with dreamers is that they start on something and then they're over here somewhere else with a new dream, a new ambition, a new kind of career idea, new kind of business idea, new kind of a money maker or whatever. We want them to take one thing and actually follow through with it. So, can we take one thing, one of your dreams, and what are the specific steps that you can take to turn one of your dreams into a concrete goal? And question three: how do you differentiate between what you want to achieve someday and what you can start working on now? It's an important question because I don't know that most people really make that distinction and they've never given it that much thought. But here's one thing that I will say: dreamers don't like to just be impractical people who always just sit around dreaming. Dreaming is something that, well, not everybody's able to do. And dreaming is one of those things that are always connected to life purpose and destiny and everything else. So people who don't follow through and don't take any real actionable steps towards something really don't feel that good about it. They feel like it's so when you find these people who go down emotionally, because dreamers will be like this emotionally on a high when they're dreaming and on a low when they're connect with the fact that I'm not really moving forward in anything in my life. So it doesn't feel very good for them. So this question of how do you differentiate between what you want to achieve someday and what you can start working on now? It's the impractical, it's making the impractical practical so that today we can actually take steps towards something that maybe it's going to take 6 months, maybe it's going to take a year, but at least we're getting traction and we might actually see some of those dreams come to fruition. Sticking point number two: dreamers struggle with creating detailed plans. And what ends up happening is, since they don't have a detailed plan, they end up overwhelmed and they end up having a lot of incomplete projects. Like I was saying, a lot of starting and stopping and not really clear about what their next step is. So we've got to help them with regard to clarity. How do we do that? Well, here's how we shift that. That means we need detailed planning, and we're going to use the 5 W's and the 1 H. What is that? Well, we're going to help them with structure and execution by asking these kinds of questions: 5 W's and 1 H. What, when, where, who, why, and how. That's how we boil it down. Most people who are dreamers haven't really thought through all of those things. They haven't really asked really great questions that would be starter kinds of questions. Sometimes dreamers will just fire off all kinds of just like crazy kinds of things without any we don't know if this is step 1 or step 25 because they just all of a sudden they just do something. I watch coaches do this. They get trained and certified and then they seem to have no plan to start a business, no structure about it. And so all of a sudden they're at step number 10 And then they're stuck and they have like, oh, I've been dreaming about this and everything, but then they're stuck. They come to me and I'm like, well, okay, the last thing you should have done is, at least not the first thing, maybe the 10th thing you should have done is actually build out your website and come up with branding, but you don't even know who your who is and you're confused about what that is. You know what your first step would be? And then we have to bring them back. Here's what your step number one is. Here's what your step number two is. And I know that I frustrate new coaches with this because I ask these kinds of questions. Why does Paul ask these kinds of questions? Because I was that coach, because I was that person for so many years. And I watch so many coaches just all of a sudden they try to launch in like 24 hours and they make all kinds of mistakes and then they're lost at it. So these are great questions to ask. Make sure when you ask those questions that there are detailed steps and a timeline. Why is the timeline important? Because a timeline sets its own boundary. If you do not have a date by which things are going to be accomplished, it will never get accomplished. That's the difference between dreams and goals in general. Dream is something like, I'd really like to have this one day, but goals means that I am actually taking steps towards something, and there are real deadlines for when those things are going to get done. So here's some questions. How do you typically handle tasks that you find difficult or distressing? It's really, really important because what we need to help the client isolate are it's not everything that's overwhelming. Let's say that it's to start a coaching practice, okay? For a coach who is a dreamer procrastinator, it's not everything that they hate, but there are some parts that they absolutely hate. And those little things become a major distraction and overwhelm them and keep them from being able to move forward. What are the things that you hate most? What are the things that bother you the most? What are the things that overwhelm you the easiest? And these things could be anything from writing an email to making a social media post to going to a networking. Could be anything. Could be anything. But this is a great question to figure out where your client, because like I said, I'm a pretty introverted person. I've met a lot of people who are dreamer types and they are introverts, even though they have a role that seems to be in front of a lot of people and leading a lot of people. So one of the things that you find overwhelms them is you're supposed to be leading people, but you don't want to go out and do some of the people kind of business. So you know what you've got to do? You've got to have a strategy so that you don't fail and just completely stop when you were supposed to have greater influence and greater impact. So this is a great question to ask people to help them get clear. What strategies have you tried? It's good to know what they've tried in the past, what worked, what didn't work. Second question, how do you usually manage your time when working on a project? And what changes could help you improve your focus? Question three, what are the most common obstacles you face when trying to complete detailed tasks and how can you overcome them? Now, here's the thing. Um, this is obviously with these questions, we're getting the client's perspective and we're also, and they're going to tell you what they believe is stopping them. When we ask these questions, because a lot of times dreamers are tired of starting and stopping and failing because you feel like a failure. You feel like you're never following through. And I guarantee you they're getting a lot of judgment from people. But there is a reason they're not following through. And if we ask these kinds of questions, we can find out the things that are shutting them down, maybe help them reframe how they see things and help them move forward. Now, here is the third sticking point. Dreamers often have a passive mindset and vague language that undermines their commitment and time management. How do we help dreamers with this? Well, here's how we help them. We need to change language. Interestingly enough, we talked about that with worriers. We're also doing it in a different way with dreamers. We want their language to change from passive to active, whether it's their language or their mindset. So that means that I want to help a client turn from saying, I wish and I try into I will. The interesting thing that happens when we say I will, there's a couple of things. One is that sometimes the reason why people won't say I will is because they're afraid of failure. And when you say I will, that means that you are committing. That means that effort's actually required of you. Follow through is required. Doing the hard stuff is required of you at that point. And a lot of times we will say things, I'm talking for the dreamer procrastinators, we'll say things like, I wish or I'll try. It's a little non committal. It means that we leave a little bit of wiggle room that if we decide that we want to do something or it gets really uncomfortable, that we can kind of back away and tell ourselves we didn't really try that hard because there were some things that we didn't really like. But as coaches, we want to push that, change that vocabulary. We need commitment. And we want to see them set clear deadlines instead of saying someday. And plan projects with specific steps and timelines. Here's how we would ask those questions. Describe a recent situation where you felt passive. What could you have done differently? Again, let the client come up with their own ideas. We don't have to suggest to them. What have they thought about? Second question. In what ways do you see yourself as special? All right, let's park it here for a second. Dreamers think of themselves very differently than everybody else probably perceives them. And it's not narcissism to think you're special, but I find that a lot of dreamers think of themselves as special people who think differently and see the big picture that nobody else can see. Now, the problem with that, because I don't think that that's a problem. I think that it's like, okay, if you're good at this and you recognize that significant place that you play, that role that you play, and everything else, I'm completely fine with that. The problem is that often when people think of themselves as special, they see the big picture and nobody else does. What ends up happening is that it affects whether they work hard and they are efficient. And so a lot of times dreamers might think of themselves as special, but they don't have the work ethic and they won't do the hard stuff and do the uncomfortable things that it takes to actually be successful. Matter of fact, I think some of them don't even think that they should have to work hard. They can find somebody else who can work hard for them. Or this, again, should just be easy. And so, again, we have to confront those things because I want people to have a high self-esteem, but I also don't want them to be lying to themselves about, are you as successful as you really could be right now? When was a time fate did not intervene as you expected? And what did you learn from that experience? I will say this about dreamers, we just think it's gonna work out. It's just gonna come together somehow. It's gonna happen or whatever. When I was early on in leadership, and this was I was in my 20s when I started getting leadership roles and stuff like that. And so I'm leading people, and I always did it from a big picture away. So I was a dreamer, big picture. I also was ADHD, undiagnosed though. Of course, if you would have looked in my office and some of these other things, you would have seen all the patterns and you would have seen all of the different things. So what would happen is that we just kind of think things are going to go to plan, and that God's going to help us or whatever we think. And what ends up happening is when there is a lack of execution and there is a lack of intentionality and a lack of follow through and a lack of a process, what ends up happening is that the people that are around you end up being frustrated with you all the time. And I experienced that a lot in my 20s because no one knew where we were. I could communicate big picture, but I couldn't communicate steps. And so I'd leave a lot of details out and I'd make a lot of mistakes. Now, part of that was because I was ADHD and wasn't really good at steps and process and all those things anyway. But after we do these things a few times and we start making mistakes or things fly up that we weren't expecting, that's a good conversation to have because we need to have a perspective about what's really going on And what's our role in it? Here's the last question. Who can you reach out to for support or collaboration on your current projects? Again, we want to have people who we can partner with and that can help us cover our weaknesses and to keep us from failing. Because here's the deal: if you could just be a CEO and find people to execute, boy, that would be really, really powerful. But the reality is that most of us will never be CEOs, but it doesn't mean that we can't live into the dreams that we have, which means that that is up to us to figure out how we can have steps and strategies to keep us from failing. And this is where coaches get to fill in that void. No, you are not going to do these things for people, but you can help them execute so that they can become who they were made to be. Next week, we're going to be talking about defiers, and that's going to be great fun. In Before we wrap up, let me pay the bills, and I'll look at some of the questions. For those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, and you have gotten trained and certified, but you have not started your business yet, maybe you've been on level 10, thinking step 10, and now you're like, you've hit a wall and you have no idea what to do to get clients or anything else. This is what we're going to offer you to really help you. And most programs that you see out there, most schools do not do business development help at all. And most schools actually are taught by coaches who are very bad at business, and that's why they don't talk about it. For us, we are a balanced school that we talk about all the skills, the core skills, and growing you in proficiency as a coach. But we also are not going to leave out the most important stuff, which is how you actually go out there and get a client. How do you create a growing, thriving coaching practice? We want to be both. We want to be a balanced school and help you accomplish all those things. Our Jumpstart program is only $97 a month. That's Starbucks. So if you ever do your math, if you drank a cup of Starbucks every day, $3.25 a day. If you buy your beans and grind them at home, that's not cheap either, unless you're drinking like Folgers or something. If you are grinding your own beans at home from the store, and there's somewhere around $16 to $18 a week for that, I want you to know that you've almost paid for your training, certification, and business development support for a month with that. If you're paying like 20 bucks a month for coffee or tea or anything, that's $80 a month right there. I don't know if you've ever sat around and done the math on that. Adds up really quickly. It's only $3.25 a day. It's not a whole lot of money. And you guys have looked around at other coaching programs, again, that don't cover business development or anything else, and they're going to rack you up in the thousands just to give you a certificate. Okay. So, our Jumpstart program includes the Life Coach Certification course. It includes our live weekend boot camp and all of the business development help, including live Tuesday night coach training and Wednesday night group coaching calls where when you come on there, we give you feedback on anything that you're working on. You also connect with other coaches who can hold you accountable and also keep you encouraged. Now, let me unpack some of the things that are part of Jumpstart. Coming up June 21st through the 23rd, we always have our boot camp weekends. Boot camp is only $247. It's a great deal. It's worth $3,500 to come and knock out your certification in a single weekend. But we include it as a part of Jumpstart. So when you enroll in Jumpstart, you will already be enrolled in the next boot camp, which is June 21st through the 23rd. You will also have access to Brand Camp. That is our branding course. I walk you through 13 hours of training, step by step on marketing messaging. We show you everything from how to choose a niche, how to develop your website. We show you how to do search engine optimization. We show you how to write a sales page. We show you how to write social media posts. We show you how to write emails. Our coaches who have gone through this program are getting open rates for their email lists somewhere around like 70%, which is unheard of in the industry. You know, most email lists get maybe a 15% open rate. And so we're crushing it on that. We show you how to do that. You'll also get access to the coaching product launch blueprint. The blueprint is, if you've been around any length of time, you know that I am a really big proponent of coaches not just sitting around, because this is what coach training schools teach you. Oh, coaching's just one-on-one clients. And you know what will happen? You'll level out your business and you won't make as much as you should be making. What I'm a really big proponent on is creating multiple streams of income. And this is why we created this course. Give you the A to Z steps, go from brainstorm to launch, and we cover every piece. I give you a bunch of tools that helps you process. We go through, we give you feedback on those things, anything from a coaching practice launch to group coaching to online courses, webinars, workshops. The blueprint works for all of those things. Jumpstart again is $97 a month. There's live weekly group coaching calls. You get Tuesday night training. We give you feedback on anything that you're working on. You get the Jumpstart program, which is completely an A to Z business development roadmap. $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. It covers everything: training, certification, and everything that you need in business development. And you can cancel after 3 months. But since it's so cheap, you might want to keep us around because you've got a mentor and you've got a whole community of support who are going to be walking alongside you to help you become successful. That link is inside of the description of this video for you to get enrolled as quickly as possible. I'll look at some of these comments. Donna says, being a dreamer sucks. I can relate and hate it. I love being a dreamer. I'd much rather be a dreamer than to be a practitioner sometimes and doing execution. I have learned and I am learning. And so that's the thing about this, is that we can all learn. Americo says, I get frustrated and disappointed. Goals and timelines helps me stay on track. Awesome. And Americo's commenting about Jumpstart. It's the best support and program period. So worth it. Thank you for that. Well, awesome, everyone. Well, we are going to head out of here. Again, get enrolled. It'll take you 90 seconds to get enrolled. You have instant access to all of these courses. We're going to throw this thing on replay, and so that people in the future can watch it. So if you're not watching me right now presently, still do me a huge favor. Like this post and share it and comment so we can get this in front of more people. Listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Have a great rest of your weekend. Take care. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. As we begin, this is the way we always love to start. Do me a huge favor. Jump inside of the chat widget and let us know that you are here. Tell us where you are joining us from and what you're excited about. And also, if you have any specific questions for us tonight, we want to be able to answer those. And let me look at something really quick. I want to make sure that we got good audio. It looks like we do. Let me jump inside of the chat widget to say hello. Americo is saying hello. Good to see you, Americo. Katie is joining us from Seattle. Again, if you're in the room, I can't see you. Obviously, you're watching us, so let us know that you are here. Jump inside the chat. Let me have a drink of this. I had a lot going on over the last week, including a lot of training, and then I was in LA and all these things. So I'm a little bit like the vocals are a little bit rusty, but hopefully we'll make it through and I won't be grading. Sandy is saying hello, joining us from New Jersey. Gerlinda joining us, saying waiting for these Mondays, more exciting than a Hitchcock. Oh, wow. That's impressive. Like that. Anybody else, if you would, let us know that you are here. Just post a hello. Tell us where you are joining us from. Tonight, we're continuing our procrastination series. We're not procrastinating, we're going through every week of it. And so it's been a great series so far. Let me say hello to a couple more people. Americo says, officially certified today. Praise God. Way to go, Americo. That's very good. Anybody else? Shannon is saying hello from Tampa. Good to see you, Shannon. Anybody else that'd like to say hello to us? Just jump inside of the chat, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. That tells Facebook and YouTube that we're doing a good job. So just do us a huge favor and say hello. Also, do me a huge favor as well. Like this post and share it. What that always does is it tells Facebook and YouTube that we're doing a good job. Because if you've ever been with us on a Monday night, you know we don't do fluffy stuff. We're always trying to build your coaching skill, and we're also helping you build thriving coaching practices. And over the last few weeks, we've been specifically sharpening coaching skills around procrastination. Um, there's Clean Music saying hello. Yeah, congrats to Americo knocking out that certification. We'll keep those comments going in. Also want to let you know about something really important that's coming up June 21st through the 23rd that is going to be our next weekend boot camp. So for those of you who have been procrastinating about getting started as a coach, knocking out your certification, one of the easiest ways to not just cope or manage, but to overcome procrastination is to actually set a deadline, put it in writing, get it done, get enrolled tonight. There's a link inside of the description. You can either get enrolled in Jumpstart and be a part of Bootcamp Weekend, or just get enrolled in Bootcamp Weekend. It's our 3-day certification weekend. Friday night, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, you knock all of your training out. Those of you who are live that have went through Bootcamp, you can tell everybody what a great experience it is. I'll say more about it in a little bit. But that ticker on there is to remind you and to snap you out of procrastination, because it's time to actually do this thing. And the easiest way to do it is have a deadline. We start on Friday, you get all of your training knocked out, and then you're done by that Sunday afternoon. So let me say hello to a couple more people really quick. It is Mike and Marcia in Brooklyn. Good to see you. America says, I have been promoting the boot camp to everyone. Good stuff. I'll leave that on there, though. And if you would, Gerlinda says, regarding boot camp, I love the practice sessions. Yes, it's one of the, and I'll say more about that in a little bit. So we are in week 5, I believe, of our, I think it's actually going to be a 7-week series, because I did an intro to the procrastination types in the first week. But there are 6 procrastination types. And so what we've done is that we've gone through all of them up to now. Where we are today is defiers. And you're kind of like, that's the thing about it. It's like, defier. What does that mean? Well, it means what it sounds like. It means that we actually have one of the reasons, because a lot of people have different ideas about procrastination and why people do it. And the interesting thing is that not everybody is procrastinating for the same reasons. And you might have a couple of characteristics about you and the way that you procrastinate. It's really important to know what kind of a procrastinator that you actually are, because it varies. We don't want to try to solve the wrong problem. We want to try to solve the right problem. And then what you do is that you partner with the type of person that you are so that you get breakthrough. This is what this series has been about. Now, the interesting thing is that there are some procrastinator types that are actually defiers. And so we gave you a big definition of that in the very first week, but we're going to give you a definition of that again. The defier is a rebel. Imagine the situation. Your boss has given you a boring, mundane, or just downright stupid task to do, and you think it's not worthwhile. You're angry, maybe resentful, so you delay. You put off doing it to do other tasks you think are more important. The typical belief underlying the defier's feelings of frustration and rebellious behavior is anger. And underlying this anger is the belief, I shouldn't have to do it. Now, there's probably nobody tonight or who will watch this in the future, it's raising their hand and they're like, that is me. I'm a defier, because you're kind of like, well, I'm not angry. I'm not these things, because no one wants to think of us in those kinds of ways. No one wants to think of themselves necessarily as a rebellious type. So let me give you an example that you might be able to understand, you might be able to grasp. Um, we have an 11-year-old, and she's a real dominant personality. She wants things done. When she wants them done, she's a leader. There's all of these amazing things about her. The interesting thing about the way that she gets things done is she wants things done for her immediately, and she doesn't have a whole lot of tolerance for things out there. She's not spoiled, but there's just a leadership personality about her of like she's used to leading people and not just dominating people, but she gets things done. The interesting thing about her as well is that she has these characteristics about the things that she likes to do and kind of looks like a dreamer in many cases. Dreamers who have a big picture of things that they want to do, big things that draw them in, and everything else. So she's kind of a dreamer. She's a real achiever, all of these other kinds of things. School is never actually a problem for her. When she gets things done, though, is a problem. Now, a lot of times, procrastinators will wait to the last minute to get certain kinds of things done. That's pretty typical about procrastination. You put it off until you can't put it off anymore. And I might make her fall under some of these other procrastination types, except there are certain kinds of things that she seems to procrastinate the most on. I'll give you an example of that. If my daughter right now, she's coming up on her 12th birthday, and she's been dragging around this old smartphone forever. It's bad. Uh, and some of you are like, well, that would be great if I was that age. And I mean, it's so locked down and it's old, and sometimes it won't even connect. But she's utilized this phone and all these other things. So, one of the big things for her 12th birthday is to actually get a real phone. Well, she's trying to move up the deadline on that to us because her phone's really crapped out. And honestly, we can't call her at times and different things. So she's got a point there. Well, right now, if you were to see her room, it is a disaster. But she's continued to move this schedule up of trying to get this phone that actually works and everything else. And she's always in this process of negotiating with her parents for various things. Right now, she's got a disaster going on in the garage. Right now, she's also got a disaster that's going on in her bedroom. Now, what we said is that by Tuesday, we would go to the store and we would get all that process going. But she has to get all of these things straightened out that she keeps telling us that she's going to get straightened out. Right now, it's still not straightened out. What time is it? It's almost 5:30 Pacific time. Tomorrow is when we're supposed to be, keeping our promise to get her this phone. Except that right now, she has not followed through and she has not kept her end of the deal. What is that? Well, that is the defier. Doesn't mean that I have a bad kid. It's just this is the way that we normally see it. Is that I'm going to keep my autonomy like this. I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it when I want to do it. And I don't like actually feeling the control over me or feeling the stuff that I don't really want. Why is this important? That's the way some of these. So a lot of times you'll see defiers when you have children, they're growing up and they're trying and they got a lot of negotiation and they put things off and everything else. Now, sometimes we've got kids that are not defiers and they just keep everything straight and they do things really quickly and all this. But you see that a lot when someone is trying to come in to having a greater measure of autonomy in their life. And then you also see it in relationships where there is a superior, and this person at a certain point feels like, well, they don't value me. This isn't really important or whatever. I don't think that what they want to do is important. So what ends up happening is there ends up being a little bit of hostility, a little bit of rebellion that's in there. Now, it doesn't mean that this person's in a terrible place, but I will say that a lot of people who are defiers tend to be pessimistic people. Not all of them. So we're painting with a broad stroke here. Defiers, though, are in a position of being a subordinate to someone, and this is the way that they satisfy getting to be insubordinate and rebellious. I'm going to get that done, but I'm going to get it done when I want it to be done. And that's the way that it functions. So as we're looking at this, let's think about how we can actually help these people. Here's sticking point number one. Defiers, generally speaking, see life in terms of what others expect or require them to do, um, and at the cost of what they believe that they would want to do. And so, how do you fix this sticking point? If they see life in terms of what others expect, what others require them to do, in opposition to what they would want to do, well, how do you actually deal with that? Well, here's the first thing. The first thing that we have to do is that we need to help them make a shift. And how they're going to make a shift first is to reframe requests that people ask of them as choices. What we want to do is help clients see tasks as requests rather than demands. It's really important because if you think that somebody's demanding something of you and that is the lens by which you see things, I don't blame people if they feel powerless all the time. I don't blame people if they feel like if they feel like that if you feel powerless, you know what? That's probably kind of a natural response in terms of people want autonomy. We teach about this inside of the life coach certification course and in boot camp and everything else. A key motivator for people is that they actually have autonomy. So I understand when you don't have autonomy or you feel like you don't have autonomy, is that there's something in you that wants to be rebellious and wants to do kind of your own thing. I mean, that's also what we coach people on. We want to give people permission to do things. But here's the thing. You're always going to be answering to someone, you know? Now, I know that a lot of people would like to think, well, I want to be my own boss and I'll answer to myself. Not so fast. I have been my own boss for quite a while now. Do you think that I only answer to myself? That's a myth. I answer to a lot of people as my own boss. I answer to the state of California because that's where my business is situated, right? I answer to the IRS. I answer to a lot of other kinds of things. I answer to our customers, right? I answer to clients. I answer to any kind of a person that I need services from, and we have a mutual agreement on some of these things. There's a lot that's going on. I answer, but you know why? Because I can't just not do these things. So there is always, like, to my tax person, there are things that I have to prepare and I have to get done. I have to have things in order, otherwise other people are confused. I can't task everybody with everything that I do. So it's actually a myth that that we are not subordinate to anyone. It's just a different form of subordination that we're going to have. Now, I can view that however I want. I do not want to. I'll agree with people. I never want to be under or subordinate to someone who owns their own business and be making a fraction of what I make for the same amount of work. And that I put in extraordinary hours to help somebody else. You get to choose where you serve, essentially. And you can either serve someone and get paid as an employee, and there's certain amount of stresses that person deals with that you don't have to, but maybe you have a direct report. Maybe you have somebody that you're always going to be answering to someone, right? It is a myth that you're not answering to no one. So what we have to do is that we have to help our clients with this, because we want to empower them to feel more in control and less resistant. And how we do that is to help them see that what they've got to get done is a request rather than a demand. So here's some coaching questions that you can actually ask to help these people. Coaching question one: how can you reframe this expectation from others as a request rather than a demand? The interesting thing is that you got work to do, you got a job to do. If I'm in an adversarial role with, if I have that relationship, I should say adversarial relationship with someone who is my boss or who is the person that I'm reporting to, that's not serving anybody. If I feel like people who are just doing their job, and this is one of the things that happen, when people call to collect money for things that needs to have payment, if something happens with state or local government, if somebody goes to the DMV to get something done, you notice how people get heated and get bent out of shape immediately when they request more information. Well, I really need to see your driver's license. I need to have this paperwork in order to be able to process what your request is at the DMV. And how heated people get because they show up believing that this person doesn't want to serve them, and they show up in a position of that this person's their nemesis. That's their adversary. So you show up in a negative state, you end up having an attitude and everything else, and the person who's in front of you, in many cases, is just trying to do their job. They haven't been empowered more than being able to ask questions, and we need to cooperate and partner with them to be able to get things done. I remember having to deal with some tax issues at times. And, because there'd be confusing things or whatever. And I'm talking on the phone with someone who's probably had hundreds of conversations that day and they've all been negative. And when I start a conversation with those people, I keep that in mind. Yes, I do not want to ever have a conversation with state or local government or any of those other things with regard to my business. I don't want to be thinking about those kinds of things. But if I'm forced to and I have to, it's not serving me showing up thinking that they are my adversary. So that means I need to have a different perspective on it. So when I get on the phone, I'm like, hey, I'm going to be your best customer all day. I'm going to be your best. I'll tell them on the front end. I know you've got a lot that you got to do in your job. Tell me how I can make this easier and the best experience that I can partner with you and cooperate with you so that we can walk away with a win and do this as quickly as possible. What can I do? And when you show up that way, it's so different. So this is one of the things is that we can look at things as requests or we can look at them as demands. What would it look like to approach this task as a personal choice rather than an obligation? Question 3. What are some benefits of completing this task on your terms? Question 4. What specific approach can you take to complete this task that aligns with your personal style? So if we can help our clients do it in the way that they would do it, that's a way, it's a means of getting control back. It's always a way of seeing with regard to your autonomy in a situation. All right, here's sticking point number 2. Sticking point number 2 is rather than expressing negative feelings, they convey those feelings by procrastinating. This is always happening where people have buried and they have this angst and resentment and bitterness with regard to. Now listen, sometimes people are in a situation where they will unleash those kinds of feelings. They might unleash them at the DMV. They might unleash them at certain places of business that where they owe money and they're frustrated about something or whatever. But in many cases, people don't share their feelings at all because, again, they feel like they're in a subordinate position. So, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to share what my feelings are. I'm going to bottle it up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my revenge. I'm going to exact my revenge by procrastinating and putting things off. So what's the shift? The shift is to take ownership and be accountable. So with this, we want to encourage clients to take ownership of their actions and to be accountable for their progress. And when they do, it reduces the tendency to procrastinate as a form of defiance. We want to encourage our clients to own up to any delays and find constructive ways to move forward. Let me give you some questions that we would ask. Question 1. What is one way you can take ownership of your progress on this project? Question 2. How can you express your true feelings about this task without procrastinating? This is an important thing. Because what we want to do is that we want to start alleviating, because I understand this. When you're in a negative state, when you show up in pessimism or in a bad attitude or whatever, it is making that task that much harder. So, what can we do to alleviate the procrastination in many cases is to find a real healthy way of being able to express those feelings or emotions. It might mean that it opens the door to a conversation with their boss or whoever it is that they think this person doesn't really care. Here's the next question. What can you work, or I should read, how can you work as a team rather than, oh, I butchered this so bad. How can you work as a team rather than being independent and in opposition? So it's all about perspective. When you are in defiance, when you are in rebellion, when you are procrastinating, you're only focused on what your needs are. You're only focused on yourself. But one of the things, especially because in most cases, you're not just working with, even if you're working with one person, two people together can actually be a team. Can you reframe and can you look at the position that you're in more in terms of a team focus rather than just simply, I'm just a servant. I'm just a cog. I'm just a slave to these people and I have to do their bidding. When you show up as a teammate, that also means that you show up in a particular role and you want to contribute to the team to make the team better. Here's the next one. Next sticking point is that, again, people who are defier procrastinators have a tendency to be pessimistic in nature. And when you're pessimistic, it undercuts your motivation to complete tasks in a timely manner. So, how do we help these people shift? Well, we help them shift by taking action and rather than being reactive. How can we help them act rather than react? So, we want to help our clients identify situations where they tend to react negatively and develop strategies to act positively instead. Encourage them to take the initiative and approach tasks with a proactive mindset. Here's some great questions with this. What positive outcomes can you envision if you complete this task on time? How can you shift your focus from reacting to acting on this task? How can collaborating with others help you achieve this goal? And how can you challenge your pessimistic thoughts to find motivation in this task? This is how we do it. Next week, we're going to be talking about crisis makers. Oh, it's going to be really fun. I think next week's going to be one of the most fun weeks in the series. Let me pay the bills really quick and I'm going to look at some questions. Coming up, oh, that should actually say June 21st through the 23rd. It's not 4 days, it's 3 days. Let me just fix that really quick. 23rd. There we go. I got all kinds of little typos on PowerPoint tonight. June 21st through the 23rd is our next weekend boot camp. And this gives you the opportunity, especially if you're a procrastinator, you have a lot of delay in your life. You're thinking about all the hard weeks and hard days of all these things that you've got, and it's overwhelming. It's making you get stuck and it's keeping you from making a decision. I'm going to help you make your decision really, really easy. If you knew that you could knock out your coaching certification training in a single weekend, wouldn't that be a lot better than having to think about it for weeks or months or maybe a year? What we've done is that we've created our program in an accelerated fashion. Now, it is like drinking from a fire hose. I'm going to talk about 150 miles an hour. We're going to start on Friday night. We're going to work really hard and knock it all out in a single weekend. Is it a lot of work? Yes, but is in a short duration of time. And it allows you to overcome that limit of procrastination in your life. Because I know what it feels like. Like when I went through all of my certification training and everything else, I would evaluate different kinds of programs and look at different things. And every time I went back to training, I always picked accelerated programs. They usually cost a little bit more, but I always chose them because I was working 40 hours a week. I was taking care of a family. I was taking care of kids and everything else. And it's like, man, it stole my motivation to be looking at a schedule that looked like I'm going to be here on Monday nights for like 20 weeks or something. Is there a better accelerated way that if I just gave myself away for the weekend that I could suck it up for a weekend and I could get this thing done? This is what we were thinking about with this program in mind. It's 7 powerful weekend sessions. These are the sessions that we're going to be covering. Foundations of coaching. That's what we do on Friday night. Saturday morning, we start with the anatomy of a dynamic coaching session, how to help your clients get extraordinary results. We have 2 sessions on how to listen on a transformational level. We also start Sunday with how to ask powerful questions, how to establish a growing coaching practice. We have live coaching demos. So some of you have never even seen coaching before. Not only will you see it demonstrated, but you can actually practice yourself with a practice client so you can see how these things are done. We also have live Q&As at the end of every one of those sessions so that if you've got any specific questions, if anything is unclear, I spend that time with you. You're going to connect with coaches globally from all over the world, and you'll have an amazing experience of relationships where you can stay motivated, you can stay in the trenches with these people, and they can also hold you accountable long after that weekend is over with. What is included in this weekend? Well, as we said, 7 live sessions with live Q&As and role playing. You're also going to walk away with a lot of coaching tools, including a coacher's book. Can I get it out of my mouth? The coaching tool starter pack. You're also going to walk away with question samples. We also include downloadable templates that are fully editable in Canva for coaching agreement and intake and all of those things. Yes, you will earn your life coach certification. You will get a certificate. You will also get HD replays and handouts. You'll also be invited to Tuesday night training live, and you will get free audits for life. What does it cost? The cost is only $247. That is right. $3,500 value for only $247. We do have payment plans that are as low as $47 a month. 6 months at $47 a month. We've done everything that we can. We've made it affordable. We've also crammed all of this into a weekend. I understand what it's like to be working 40 hours a week. And when are you going to make this thing happen? This again is coming up June 21st to the 23rd. So not this Friday, but the following Friday weekend. There's a link inside the description. You can enroll in Jumpstart, which is probably the best way that I could recommend going about it in terms of savings, because Jumpstart's $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment, and it includes all of this. If you're wanting to just knock out your certification and that's all that you're wanting to do, then enroll in Bootcamp. It's only $247. Yes, our program is fully accredited, as is all of our courses at Life Coach Training Institute. Let me come back and say hello to a couple of people really quickly. Americo says, this is the best certification for life coaching. Thank you. Who else do I need to say hello to? Megan says 100% agree. Let me see. Who else do I need to say hello to? Americo says, I want to do it again. You want to do another weekend, Americo? Okay, we can do that because you'll have access to it. So you can join us again, Americo, if you would like to. And very good stuff. Well, cool, everybody. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Tonight, we're making it pretty brief compared to most weeks that are in here. But we will be back next week talking about Crisis Maker. So listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. If you have not gotten enrolled, click that link inside of the video description and get enrolled as quickly as possible. Have a great rest of your week and take care. Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. As we always begin, this is what we always do. There's two different things that are going on here. One, please like this and share it. It tells Facebook and YouTube that we are doing a good job. We try really hard to never waste your time. We don't do fluffy Mentor Mondays. We're always creating topics, coming up with content that can really help you grow as a coach in the skill side. And also, we spend the vast majority of our time trying to help coaches develop thriving coaching practices. We've got a 4-word mission statement at Life Coach Training Institute: proficient coaches, thriving practices. It's that simple. We want to be both. And so, a couple of things. One, jump inside of the chat and let us know that you're here. Tell us what you're excited about, where you are joining us from, all of those things. Also, any of your comments, we always welcome those during this time. So, jump into the chat for us. Also, this weekend is Bootcamp weekend. We're in a procrastination series right now. It might be the very thing that will help all of you put procrastination behind you, is to actually just start. And what we do is an accelerated intensive this weekend. It starts with Friday night and it goes all day Saturday, all day Sunday. Schedule on Friday is 5 p.m. Pacific to 7 p.m. Pacific. Then Saturday morning it's 7 a.m. Pacific to 3 p.m. Pacific in the same time frame on Sunday. So you knock all of your training out in a single weekend. Yes, it is like drinking from a fire hose. Yes, I do speak about 150 miles an hour, but you get it done. And so inside of the link, inside of the description of this video, you can click over there and you can get enrolled. The cost is only $247, and we have a payment plan. You can enroll for as low as $47. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Let me say hello to a few people who are saying hello to me, though. Americo, who is joining us from Richmond, Virginia. Charlotte is joining us from Illinois. Americo says, I got my first 2 clients. Way to go, bro. That is so awesome. Americo just literally went to the last boot camp. So he's only been certified as a coach just literally for a week and a half, something like that, Americo. I think he's only been a week and a half ago. That's amazing. Love is saying hello from Atlanta. Yes, big congrats to America. That's so great. Oh, good to see you. Sandy is joining us from New Jersey. Gerlinda joining us from New York. Coaching crisis maker seems a great challenge to take on. So good. Love says, I am. Oh, and another congrats for Americo. Love says, I am working on my website and planning a summer workshop for August. Good, good. Who else do I need to say hello to? Jennifer, who's joining us from Miami. If you guys would keep that chat lively. Let us know that you're here. Tell us where you're joining us from. Also, like this post and share it. It tells Facebook and YouTube that we're doing a good job. We just want to get this in front of more aspiring coaches to help them. And you know what? Procrastination's a major, major problem. And most everybody that we know actually procrastinates for some reason. And so this is why we actually put this series together to help people be coached through procrastination. So let me keep that. Let me go ahead and remove that for now. Let's just keep those comments lively, keep them coming, and I'll get back to them in a moment. Well, we are in actually week 6. Can you believe it? Of the series, it's flying by. Week 1, I took you through all 6 procrastination types and what we have been doing as the weeks have been progressing. Oh, yeah. And if you don't know what procrastination type that you are, you can go all the way back to week 1. I think that there's probably a link inside of the video, or you can go on our YouTube and you can find it. Week 1, we did a little quiz so that you can figure out what kind of a procrastinator type you actually are. And there's 6 different types. There's different reasons why people procrastinate. And so we learned, big 30,000 foot view on what what types of procrastinators that there are. And we've been going through each week. Now we are in the fifth procrastinator type, and the fifth procrastinator type is actually the crisis maker. Yes, and exactly what is a crisis maker? Well, let me say hello to a couple more people really quick as we're jumping in. Um, Mirko says, I would love to teach these topics in a seminar. Yes, I would highly recommend that. And there's a lot of great resources out there that go into even more detail about these procrastinator types. Obviously, I'm not the only one who's talking about it, and obviously, I didn't invent them either. Charlotte says, I'm going to use these procrastination tools as a way to get to know my clients. It's great. And that's one of the things that you guys are all finding in this series is as we're learning what these types are, what I'm doing is that for each week, I'm giving you 3 strategies and coaching questions that go with each one of them. And that's what we will do again tonight. So crisis makers, oh, it sounds terrible, but I personally am very fond of crisis makers. It's my secondary procrastinator type. Um, and let's understand this about procrastination. I know it gets a bad rap. Obviously, it causes a great deal of stress. It causes its own problems. Sometimes it keeps people from getting started. But but honestly, some of these types, and particularly with a crisis maker, a lot of the people who are actually crisis makers and even perfectionists and even dreamers, a lot of those people are actually very much high achievers. So it's interesting that about half of the procrastinator types are actually would fit into a category as a high achiever anyway. And the other 3 procrastinator types are not, it's not that they are low achievers or anything else. There's usually a reason, a significant reason. There's something that's driving it, that's going on. Matter of fact, like worriers. And next week, we're going to be talking about the overdoers. So these are not bad character qualities of these people that is underlying. It's just that, well, some of these things that are actually functioning in them, what we want to do as coaches is to make sure that whatever is going on in their life doesn't cause them to fail. Now, I'm a strengths coach. I've been for a really long time. And so usually when I'm talking to people, I can usually figure out what kind of a strengths profile they are just in probably like a 5-minute conversation without them even taking the test. I'm so familiar with it now that I hear people communicate in their strengths. They talk about their strengths, even though they may not have even taken the assessment before. And so I relate because achiever is in my top 5 as far as strengths finder is concerned. And crisis makers are interesting people because again, they are high achievers. We'll just unpack the definition of what a crisis maker is. The crisis maker believes that in order to be motivated to do a task, they need the stress or the pressure that is inherent in last minute action. And without this, they believe they won't perform at their best. They need pressure to alleviate the boredom. So this is another thing that particularly for dreamer types and crisis makers, one of the big things, and even perfectionists to some degree, one of the things that really is in the way, and even defiers, one of those things that boredom seems to run rampant in their life. They find so many different tasks that are really boring and frustrating and not a lot of fun. And as we're on here, jump inside of the chat. Do you believe that you're possibly a crisis maker? You're possibly a crisis maker if you're somebody who waits to the very last minute because you really like the pressure and that you've actually said, I do my best when the pressure is on. I do my best at the very last minute. Go ahead and throw that inside of the chat widget if you're one of those types. The thing is about crisis makers though is it's absolutely, and this is another way that you can tell if you're a crisis maker. You wait to the last minute, and fellow crisis makers like me, we can't seem to get anything done, get any kind of clarity, get, and it's not that we haven't thought about it. Like we've thought about what we need to do, and sometimes it's up here, right? It's up here. We've written down a couple of ideas, we've thrown a couple of notes in our phone, maybe, but for the most part, we haven't done the work. We haven't actually put it in the document. We haven't, or it's all over the place, and we haven't actually sat down and organized it. And honestly, it's the organizing. Like for me, I hate revising. I hate editing. There's a lot of those different kinds of things that, well, it's for some reason it just seems so painful and it seems so demotivating. But the crazy thing is that when we get to the deadline, this is when crisis makers, all of a sudden, all of this stuff, even the lack of clarity, the lack of motivation, all of the things that you could not sit down, like you might have even had like 6 weeks that you could have day by day, did a little bit of work here and there and not made it all crazy. For some reason, there was never that activation energy. There was never that ability. There wasn't enough clarity. There definitely wasn't any motivation. And then all of a sudden that you can seemingly get done with weeks worth of work, like it's frankly impressive. It's really awe-inspiring. Crisis makers who in the very, very last minute can seem to like cram in like 6 weeks worth of work in like a week or in 3 days or something like that. And that you can function with no sleep, very little sleep, very little food, kind of functioning by caffeine, and that you can get it in at the last minute. And in many cases, it's not even half bad. Now, it's a lot of unnecessary stress. And one thing that I can say about crisis makers, I'm just interested if Gerlinda says, I found myself in like every type. Way to be honest. It's awesome. Um, Love says that this is my secondary procrastination type. I appreciate that. Um, it's oh, and look at that. Americo says, I need stuff off of my plate as soon as possible. Got it. One of the things about it is in about crisis makers is that if you are working on a team or you are married or you have other people who are counting on you in some kind of way, it's very possible that you have a lot of conflicts in relationship because of this. And it's very possible that people feel like you get things done, but they can't always count on you, or that you don't care necessarily, or that your follow through, even though you finish it, that your follow through sometimes is not that great. And especially for those of you who are married and your significant other or the person that you are in love with or whatever, like your loved ones in general, it can sometimes come off like you don't really care when you wait to the very last minute to get something done. And so, for all of those reasons, stress is one thing because I don't know that it's a great thing. I mean, just like health wise, to have stress levels at this high and then go back to normal, and then stress levels go this high and go back to normal. Yes, I know we've learned to function this way. We've accomplished a lot with this, but it's not good for your body. Um, Plus, in that last week, you're usually not getting much sleep. You're not getting much. I'm speaking to myself here. Not getting much sleep. Not getting much rest. It's incredible what you're able to get done in that, and so we need to do something about it. And we need to do something about it, especially for the relationships that we have with people who love us, whether that be our children, our spouses, or whoever, or even our friends, because we don't want to look like people who don't care or don't have our stuff together or whatever. Here's the other thing that I'll say as well. When it comes to your potential in life, if you are always last minute to getting something done, it could actually be keeping you from living fully into your potential when you could be prepping, you could be growing, and some of these other things. And so, if we wait to the last minute to get something done, chances are it probably isn't the very best work. You might have typos in it. It's probably wasn't you at your best because you were a little bit tired or whatever. And so being able to go back, and I know it's painful because I don't like editing and revision. And if I can get other people to look at it, I want to do that. I'll probably find mistakes on my slides because I find mistakes every week because, well, what do? I get all of this done on a Sunday night or even on a Monday. So again, I'm speaking to myself here because I also know that I have a tendency to do my best work at the end. And here's the thing is you do this for so long and you operate in this way, you don't even realize what kind of a level of stress that you're bringing your body into because it's become so normal. So let's look at how we can help these kinds of individuals. Sticking point number one for crisis makers. Crisis makers ignore the task, then feel intensely caught up in it when faced with an undesirable task. So that's sticking point number one. So how do we help crisis makers? Well, first of all, we want to help them come to a shift to identify other self motivators besides stress. Can we find something else that's a little bit more endearing or healthy or whatever? I can't help but to laugh about some of these things because how can Paul help yourself here? Okay. So, how do we do this? Well, we want to help clients discover alternative ways to motivate themselves that do not rely on stress and last minute pressure. I can't help but to laugh through this because I need to listen to myself. Paul, speak. Faith comes by hearing. So maybe I can increase my faith on this by hearing myself talk about it. Okay. I'm not telling you that I practice what I preach when it comes to tonight, okay? I'm just being honest here, but I know what to do about it, and sometimes I will deal with it and sometimes not. I will say that there are some projects that I am currently working on, and I'm at least a couple of days ahead compared to the way that I usually am. Okay. So we've got improvement. That's why I've got some credibility. I can be honest and say, yes, I am improving in these areas, but I'm not quite there yet. All right. So here's some coaching questions for this to help with this particular shift. What aspects of this task can you find interesting or enjoyable? So we want to help them with this boredom thing and this frustrating thing. How can you create a reward system that motivates you to start and complete tasks earlier? So again, we want to help people get into feeling good. We want to get them into pleasure as opposed to it being put off. What are some long term benefits of finishing tasks without the stress of last minute pressure? All right. What's the next sticking point? Sticking point two, again, is that crisis makers are easily bored and they resist the dullness of doing things rationally and methodically. What kind of a shift do we need with that? Well, the shift that we need is to change thinking from being all or nothing to balance. And it's another one that I laugh at because my wife's always told me that I'm all or nothing. And just in general, as a personality type, this is who I am. Part of it is because I'm of Middle Eastern descent, and we only have two switches. If you come from the Middle East, you only have two switches. We don't have gears. We don't have first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, whatever. Anybody who knows me in real life, not just on video, but knows me in real life, those who have spent a boot camp with me and everything else, you guys know that I never have a low gear, do I? Anybody who's been with me in a boot camp Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, you can attest to this from what's getting ready to come up this weekend. All of you can attest to the fact that I got no chill and I got no low gear. I got two switches. I got on and off, and that is it. And that's really my personality type in general. All or nothing. My wife's like, you don't know how to just be everything, and you don't know how to just bring it down a little bit. Go down to like level 4 or whatever. That's who I am in general. So, how can we help people who are all or nothing and help them get to balance? Well, we want to guide clients to shift from all this dramatic. I'm just laughing because I'm dramatic, because I'm speaking to myself. Paul, we want to guide you to shift from being dramatic, all or nothing, to a more balanced, detailed approach by breaking tasks into smaller, manageable steps and focusing on specific actions. This is something that I'm actually putting in my life right now. There's some things that I'm working on a current project. And this morning I went to a coffee shop, got one big piece out of that already out of the way. It's done, finished. Boop. One great place. So I'm doing this. Here's some coaching questions that you can ask your clients. How can you break this task down into smaller, more manageable steps? Two, what is one specific action you can take today to move forward on this task? Get it? Today. Highlight that word. Today, not tomorrow. How can you adopt a more balanced view of this task, avoiding extremes in your thinking? All right, let's get to sticking point number three. Sticking point number three, always trying to prove themselves by living on the edge. I can't help but to laugh at these things because I'm thinking about if my wife watched, I hope my wife doesn't watch this video. I literally always, it's actually a point of pride with me that my wife's like, you don't have much time to get this thing done. And so here's the way my wife is. My wife's the responsible one, very disciplined. I'm an achiever. And so I get things done for different kinds of reasons, but I am not a disciplined person by nature, and I'm not a responsible. That doesn't excite me, you know. And so my wife's always like, "Oh, I can't stop laughing." My wife's always like, "Paul, you need to get this thing done, or you're running out of time." I'm like, "I got plenty of time. I'm gonna get it done." And she's sitting around being concerned about it, worrying about it, giving me the play by play, reminding me of how much time and everything else, sending me texts and everything else. And then you know what I do? I get it all done. And then I'm chilling out on the couch. And she comes in thinking nothing, you still haven't done this. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like everything's done. And it is like literally everything is done. So it's a sticking point, always trying to prove themselves by living on the edge. How do we help these people? Paul, how can we help you? Channel that need for thrill into constructiveness. So we want to help our clients satisfy their need for excitement by setting ambitious yet achievable goals and seeking challenging projects that can be completed productively and safely. Safely, including if you're married and you've been putting things off that you said that you would do. You know, I want you to get injured or get in a bad way with your spouse. Here's some coaching questions for that. What challenging but constructive goals can you set for yourself to satisfy your need for excitement? Question two, how can you incorporate a sense of adventure or thrill into your task in a way that enhances productivity? And here's question three, what new projects or activities can you take on that push your limits while still being manageable and productive? Because reality is that there's some aspects of this you can't really completely get away with. I mean, get away from. And so we don't want to take away what inspires people and helps them be great. One of the things that I learned as a strengths coach is you want people to keep their edge. There was such conversation and there was such training and there was such learning in school, and we've still adopted some of these things where we want everybody to be well-rounded. Well, there's a problem with making everybody well-rounded. There are things that you're just not going to be good at. There's going to be things in your personality type in terms of what drives you, what motivates you, and everything else. What makes you distinctly different than everybody else is that you're not round. You have a unique shape about you. And we want people to actually maintain their edge rather than weighing them down and trying to make them like everybody else. And so these are the things that, and particularly with all of the procrastinator types that we've discussed and what we'll discuss in the future, there's nothing wrong, inherently wrong with these people. That's a real important thing that I want to communicate. There are strengths in them that are on display, but what we want is that we want our weaknesses or the opposite of those things not to make us fail, and that's the important thing that we want to help our clients manage. So next week we're going to finish off this series. It's going to be how do you coach overdoers? Now this weekend, don't leave. This weekend for you procrastinators, it is boot camp weekend. We're going to start Friday. We're going to go all day Saturday. We're going to go all day Sunday, and you are going to knock out all of your training for certification this weekend. But you need to actually enroll now. See, we're going to have to actually take action. I don't want you guys asking me, is there going to be a July one? Is there going to be an August one? I might take summer off from boot camp. I'm thinking very seriously about it because we've been burning the candle at both ends over the last month. And I've got vacation planned next month and some other kinds of things. So if you guys don't enroll this weekend, you maybe wait until September. I'm just letting you know. Okay. It's probably going to be September of the next boot camp. Also, we've got a heat wave. We don't run the AC when we do these kinds of things. It gets hot. We ran it for as long as we could. We had to turn it off. It's already climbing up to close to 80 in here right now. It happens really fast with all these lights. So anyway, so what's going on this weekend? Well, boot camp is 7 powerful weekend sessions. Here's what we're going to be covering in those sessions. Session 1, foundations of coaching. Session 2, the anatomy of a dynamic coaching session. Session 3, how to help your clients get extraordinary results. Sessions 4 and 5 are all about listening, how to listen on a transformational level. Session 6, how to ask powerful questions. 7, how to establish a growing coaching practice. And we're going to include live coaching demos. So I know most of you have never seen coaching before, never seen it demonstrated or been in a coaching session. We do that over the course of the weekend. We also have a live Q&A. So I answer any of your questions that you have throughout the weekend at the conclusion of those sessions. What all is included in boot camp? What's 7 live sessions with live Q&As and role playing. We also load you up with coaching tools. Not only are you going to learn coaching tools throughout all of those sessions, we're also going to give you the coaching tool starter pack. We give you 5 powerful tools to help you boost transformation with your clients. You're also going to get templates for everything that you're going to need in your business, welcome pack, coaching agreement samples, all of those other kinds of things, intake, all of those things that you're going to get. You're also going to obviously earn your life coach certification. You'll get a certificate. You'll also have access to HD replays and handouts, and you're going to get free audits for life. Let me also add that we also include Tuesday night training. So even though you're done with the weekend, we still have the door open for you to come back for Tuesday night training, also for role playing, also for connecting with other coaches, and still getting your questions answered. All of this is for only $247. Price of this would easily be $3,500 for the weekend, easily. We've made it really, really affordable. And we have a payment plan of $47 a month for 6 months. If it's hard for you to come up with $247, we want to make this doable. We're meeting where you're at. You're going to get more value than what you pay for, guaranteed. And it's an accredited course. And so we've covered all the bases. We've made it as affordable as we can. And we've also created it for the weekend so you can knock it all out in a single weekend. I understand. I was one of those coaches that when I was starting out, working 40, 50, 60 hours a week or whatever with a family, trying to get trained and certified as a coach and everything else. And it was really hard to do back then. And so we're trying to make this affordable and easy. Take all your excuses away. You don't really have any excuses left now, do you? What excuse do you have left? You don't have a financial one because you can come up with this. You don't have a time excuse. You can make this work in your schedule. Listen, we let you have Father's Day weekend. So this isn't a holiday weekend. It's already, for the most part, everybody's on vacation. If you've got a mobile device, you've got anything that you can put Zoom on, then you can join us for the weekend. So no more excuses, right? Let's do this thing. Let's get it done. Let me say hello to a few more people. Oh, like I'm all like dark. Why am I all dark in this light? I'm all like dark in this light for some reason. Let me say hello to a few more people. Denise, who's joining us from Birmingham, Alabama. And yeah, good to see you. Miracle says, I appreciate your transparency. I mean, this one's pretty laughable. I don't know, but we all have stuff, right? None of us are perfect. So all good. Well, awesome, everybody. Well, do me a huge favor. Um, and let's see. Whoops. Do me a huge favor and like this post and share it. Again, that tells Facebook and YouTube that we are doing a good job. And let me hide that. And get enrolled. If you've not gotten enrolled for this weekend, people who are part of Jumpstart are already enrolled. So I'll look forward to seeing each and every one of you this weekend. We're going to knock it out and have a really good time. And for those of you who don't get enrolled, well, there's always September, or you can enroll in our self-paced course that includes Tuesday night training. Listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. Have a great rest of your week and take care.